Greetings, friends, and welcome back to another episode of Dreamscapes. Today we have our friend Lewis. That is a pseudonym. Our friend is from Nowheresville, USA, because we are protecting complete anonymity. You see there's a little swirly disc over on the side. This is a big deal. If you want to get a dream interpretation, you don't want your name, face, identifying information on the internet, I can do that. That's I'll talk to anybody. And so you can see the exemplar happening right before your eyes, but it still makes a great episode, and you can just, you don't have to watch me. Who looks at me anyway? You can just listen to the audio. Would you kindly like, share, subscribe, tell your friends? Always need more volunteer dreamers, viewers for the game streams. 16 currently available works of historical dream literature. The most recent, Dreams and Their Meanings by Horace G. Hutchinson. That's book 16. Working on book 17. Audio's done. Just got to process it and all that good stuff. All this and more at BenjaminTheDreamWizard.com, and head on over to BenjaminTheDreamWizard.locals.com. Join the community there. That's where I'd prefer to receive any sustaining donations because they take less of a cut. They take the smallest cut of all the donation receiving platforms. So that's enough shilling. Back to our friend Lewis. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, we're back again.
Good deal. And unlike some other episodes, we're not doing an interview portion. There's no books to shill. There's no, a creator podcasty stuff. This is just random people got a dream. So we're going to jump straight into it. And this may not be, my typical 3.5 hour episode. So basically, I am ready when you are. What do you got for me?
So this is about, I'd say, a 3 or 4 part dream. So first it happened while I was sleeping at home. Then I got up, went to work, slept in my car until the shift started, and had another dream, and then slept on my break and had another dream then. And these all seemed to tie together, even though they were hours apart. So
okay.
The first one was actually related to work. I'm at work in my usual parking space, and this felt like it was real life, honestly, because nothing was different here, except maybe, the light in the sky. It was darker than it usually is at that time. But and so the time was maybe, say, 4 a.m. or so, 4:30. And I'm standing in the road because we park off to the side of this little road that goes in through the facility. And there's cars parked directly across from me. And I look forward, I look north towards the main building, and a car screeches off the lot, and it just disappears, behind me. I don't look behind me at all. And as I walk towards the building, I see a bunch of my coworkers, and apparently one of the cars, a couple of their cars were stolen, but only mine was left alone. Everybody else's car just disappeared, except for, the one parked right next to me, I'd say. And mine, of course. And here's where I lose track. I can only jump forward in this dream because I can't remember much right now, but so we're on an airplane tarmac road. I don't know what you want to call it, but it's not very busy at all. There's no planes going about. There's no other people driving around inside the airport. And as we're in the road, for some reason, there's this young woman from India bothering me for some reason. And she lays down on the floor all of a sudden and has a leg cramp. And obviously, I remember how through sports how to, get over leg cramps, right? I'm not going to explain the whole method, but I'm messing with her leg to try and relieve the cramp. And as I finish up with that, I take a small step over to my left, and her leg comes off and starts to, scoot across the floor towards me, like like it's what was it? Like the hand that was in the Addams Family or the Munsters? I can't remember.
Yeah, thing in Adam's Family. Yeah.
Yeah, like that.
Okay.
But I'm not shocked at all by this, even though it's out of the ordinary. And then that's when I wake up, and then we continue off to when I fall asleep again at work. So
Okay.
that starts, even though the setting completely changed, all the people in the previous dream were there again, except my coworkers. Except for a few different coworkers, And we were sort of in this weird, in like my old math teacher's house. And, but it was it was set up different, completely different than it usually is, in real life. It was like this sort of treehouse type of deal instead, but the whole setup was still the same. It's just it had no roof, and the upstairs was connected by little, sky bridges or whatever you want to call them. And as I'm in the living room, we take in these two cats. One's an orange cat, and another one's a white and black cat. And these cats are just impossibly adorable. And as I'm playing with them, my mom doesn't like them at all because allergies and whatever else. And all of a sudden, I can't remember what happened, but those two cats had kittens, and they looked kind of the same, but a mix of both their colors, right? And as I was playing with them, and these kittens were extremely affectionate, and I was bringing them wherever with me. And suddenly, as we were walking around the house, and I was taking them with me, I go upstairs into this room that looked sort of like a, Pirates of the Caribbean themed restaurant bar without a roof. It had barrels and fishing nets and whatnot in it. And I look around, and all the cats are gone. And I'm wondering, where did these cats go? Where did they go? And I'm freaking out because, I just lost cats. Basically, they weren't my cats, but I considered them my cats. And then that's where that dream ended. And then, I go to work, and then I go back to my truck and fall asleep during my break. And then it continues from there. Even though it's not really at all, it's still, in this dream, it felt like, hey, this is a connection of the previous dream. I don't know how, but I was at work in the hallway, and the main building is sort of shaped like an H inside, even though it's a square, on the outside, but it's shaped like an H inside. So to my left is the office. I'm in the main hallway, and to my right is this room. In real life, to the right. So actually, first off, I'm standing in the hallway to the right side. In the hallway and I'm standing in front of the time clock. And to my right, where in real life would normally be the break room, instead it's this sort of weird tiled room that looks like a butcher's shop. And there's this big, burly guy standing there with a black apron and black gloves and, rubber boots on. And he has a cow hanging from a meat hook. A dead cow, obviously. And he's cutting up the cow like that. And in front of him is also a steel non-porous table. And that room has orange tinged lights in it. So it gives off this weird vibe to it. And as I'm watching him do that, he's done with the cow, and suddenly he pulls forward this dead body, and it's this dead man. This dead man was like he looks like the stereotypical hairy Greek man, but he was dead, obviously. And the dead guy was like 200 something pounds. He had a large stomach. He didn't really seem like it was bloated from decomposition. It was just the body itself was like that normally. And so he pulls his body forward, and he's about to start chopping it up, starting with the thighs and legs. And for some reason, I'm just watching him. I'm not surprised at all, but the first question I asked the guy, the butcher, was weirdly, how big was his penis? And then he calmly responds back to me, 6 inches. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, that was a completely normal question to ask. And that's where that dream ends, abruptly.
Okay, good stuff. 4, making a note of the time there. All right, we got lots of material. You said, oh, this won't take too long. That's a lot of material. We got 3 complete separate dreams that do seem all related. If they feel related, they absolutely are. So we're gonna do our best with the time we've got and try to give you a good answer. I don't know why I tore off that page. I was gonna start writing things again. Okay, stay there. All right, so let's go. As they say in Princess Bride, Vizzini said, we go back to the beginning. I love that. I always think of that. Back to the beginning. The drunk Inigo Montoya. Okay, so in real life, these all happened across the span of before you were sleeping at home, then you took a nap in your car at work, and then another nap on your break. And this is also a very common phenomenon in terms of we can not only jump back into dreams. I hesitate to say common phenomenon too much, just because it is common enough to be known. It's a thing. It's not unheard of, and it's not that unusual, but it is relatively uncommon in terms of how many people actually do have continuation dreams, and how many people can have visually, no, what am I trying? Have clear remembrance. No, that's not even right. Fall asleep so quickly on a nap, on a break, that they can have a dream experience that's, and again, that's also not unheard of, but this is not the typical dream experience in terms of people usually have one dream they remember from the entire night, and that's it. And it may be a lot shorter than this, but you've got, and you seem to be, we've been in contact before, a prolific dreamer. You dream almost every night, and they're very intense and detailed. So, for everyone out there, this is like a fascinating case study type of thing in terms of, what happens when someone is such a prolific dreamer with intense visual imagery and detailed recall and the ability to fall right into sleep on a break and have a dream. Now then again, it's again not unheard of in terms of there's a famous case of a guy who had chronic nightmares of a skeleton that would choke him. And so he actually, and he was like a retired rich guy or whatever, military, I think retired, whatever. And so he paid a guy to stand by his bedside and just wake him up as soon as it looked like he fell asleep. And he fell asleep one night and had this dream that felt like it went on forever. And this skeleton was choking him and he couldn't breathe. And then the guy woke him up and he was pissed. He's like, "Why did you let that go on so long?" And the guy said, "I woke you up right away. As soon as it sounded like you started snoring, I jostled you. That dream that felt like it lasted forever was all in the space of 2 seconds, maybe for a minute at the most. I mean, depending on how long it took the guy to realize how long you're asleep before you start snoring, which is kind of an open question. When do we pass into dreamland? Long story short, so just kind of giving some context to the ideas around what are we dealing with. So anyway, it's all fascinating stuff. So because it makes a lot of sense that you have work on your mind. This is it's what you do, and so dreams of work are not that uncommon, and it's also a very common setting for a lot of dreams in terms of, because you spend a lot of your life there. You spend a lot of your waking hours, 8 hours a day, most of us, doing what we do. So that's going to be a lot of the questions and concerns we have. It's also going to be a lot of the imagery and setting we bring to our dreams, because that's where important things happen. It's our livelihood, or our stresses, or our aspirations are there. Okay, so you're at work. Standing in a parking space is the beginning of the first dream, or standing in the middle of a road near a parking space?
Yeah, standing in the road, near the parking space.
Okay, so you put yourself in the road, and this is not the first time you'd been in a road. Like the second dream also took place, but like in an airport tarmac type area, so another road. So we've got this themes of whatever a road means to me. Does anything come to mind when you think of a road? Like what a road is for, what it means to you? Just any random stuff pop into your head?
Not really. I mean, at work, all the roads that the dream took place on, and the road I was standing in was, the road I get from my parking space to work, actually. And then the second dream on the tarmac was the road we take daily to do our daily task.
Okay. So these are, very definitely both roads associated to work. Roads, excuse me. Jeebus. Good one, huh? Not going to edit that out either. Just going to leave it in. These things happen. Roads are places of travel. They are connecting points between things. They are places of danger. If you're not in a car, it's a place where you would be at risk of being run over. But it seems to me more, and if this makes sense to you, the idea of the path towards something, being on or moving towards something, or being on the path towards something, especially related to, one is the road to work and the other one is the road at which you work. Do the physical labor, so to speak. What do you think of that?
Seems about right, yeah.
Okay. The sky is darker than usual. You are there earlier, maybe 4 a.m. Now you don't typically show up at 4 a.m.
Yeah, no, I do. I show up early to work every day.
Okay, but the sky is darker, so you're actually there at the same time, but the light is different.
Yeah.
So it's a darker sky at the same time. Did you get a sense that it was lit? Go ahead.
It's like it's sort of how it's darker in the morning in winter. That kind of sky, instead of how it's semi-light in summer.
Okay, gotcha. That's actually where I was going with that. I was kind of I'm glad, interrupt me anytime. Always say that. Wait a minute, I just had an idea, or, shut up, Ben. It's okay. That it's a different season. Like this is another time is kind of where I was going to. There were two possibilities. And one is the light being an indicator of understanding in terms of the brighter illumination, the light bulb coming on in that sense, but also the brightness of the sky can give us a better ability to see. But I think I was leaning towards the other one, that this is this is a time removed. It's a different season. You're not. This is not present. This is maybe future or past. If that makes sense.
Yeah, but even though the weather was like how it is right now, early in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
it's just, yeah, the sky was winter darkness, like, you know.
Yeah. 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 So this is and I think if we merge those two ideas, this is also where I was going in my head, is it may be both at the same time. So this is, you're looking into the past or the future because it's a different season, and the light is different, meaning the what you're seeing is more obscure. You have less of an understanding of it, or you can't see it or grasp it as well as you wish you could. Is this, am I onto something? Or is that like, nah, you're not feeling it?
No, I see where you're going.
Okay. It's like the idea of obscured vision in a way. We can't see as well as we wish we could.
Yeah, like with trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, that's it. And you're but you're also there at the typical time, so you haven't changed anything. You didn't arrive earlier in like it wasn't set in present day summer conditions, and you're there super early. That would have meant maybe something different in terms of you've allowed yourself extra time. There's something about or you've dedicated extra time to this process, and showing up early has its own kind of meaning that would have been different, but it isn't. You say there are cars parked across the street, and then there's actually the parking lot of the facility, or are those basically the same things? There's no parking lot, or is there?
Want to say again so I can make sense of it?
I'm sorry. Yeah. So what you said is, and what I wrote down, I may have gotten it wrong. You know, you're standing in the road leading to the facility, and there are cars parked across the street in front of you, and that's like on the curb, lined up on the curb.
Yeah, I mean, to try and put into perspective is this road is maybe no more than like 25 yards wide, and there's not really any parking spaces. We're just parked along the fence and retaining walls.
Okay, gotcha. So when you mentioned parking space, not exactly like the parking lot with the white lines and multiple cars.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay, good. So I'm actually seeing that differently in my head now. And so you're on this road, and what you're noticing is other people have, and you're looking north, and there's suddenly a car screeches out. So you're like witnessing something unusual. Number one, I don't think you have, or maybe you do have coworkers who typically take out of the parking lot like a bat out of hell because woohoo, quitting time, and they just gun it and spin their tires, and that's normal. That's not normal.
No, because then the the man upstairs doesn't like that. He gets pissed off when that happens.
Okay, has that happened? And you know for a fact he's like, don't do that shit here.
Yeah.
I'm also making a note of that here too. Sorry, I don't mean to be too quiet. That I think is a significant idea. The reason why I was asking is maybe that was a common thing, and the boss is like, I don't give a fuck. You're off the property. You're standing on the street and do whatever you want. You want to spin your tires. I don't care. That would make it a different thing. But it is specifically, this is something that you're a reference from real life. You're pulling into the dream to demonstrate something. You're seeing that represented as something. So here's something the boss disapproves of. So this is not something that's supposed to be allowed at work, and it's almost in a way an indicator of something's wrong. This is not supposed to be happening. This is not typical. And then that brings to mind all these people's, I'm noticing all these cars are gone, and you just know they've been stolen.
Yeah, because all the usual people who drive them are standing around. So I know, and they say that they tell me that they were stolen after the fact.
Okay, gotcha. And it's the same difference. They tell you, you just know. But that's good too. So you're
Yeah.
having a connection with workers. The thing that came to my mind is that you're observing behavior contrary to the expectations of the boss that is also, and then immediately followed by that demonstration of your coworker suffering deprivation or loss. I don't know if does that connect to anything going on in the actual job? I mean, you don't have to get too specific, but other people screwing around, causing problems. The boss isn't happy, and it's negatively affecting you or your. I mean, in this sense, it didn't affect you, but is it affecting your coworkers? Are you watching coworkers suffer job-related stress or problems that shouldn't be happening?
Not at all.
Okay.
See, like we had problems in the past, but those have been fixed like months ago. So I mean, it's weird to have a dream this chaotic when everything is usually pretty orderly and at work in actual life.
That may be relevant. The fact that it did happen once upon a time, but has been sorted out. What do you think about that?
The thing that happened in the past though was about communication between one team and another team.
Okay.
Not it wasn't like super related between actually losing stuff.
Well, but fair enough. And I'm not trying to push this. Where my head's going is, as much as a road is connecting links, vehicles can be representations of ideas, and even in this sense, communication could be just this is where my brain goes. If what you need to communicate with someone is a pathway, an open dialogue, say, and a vehicle, you put it into words and those go through the air. It's like cars, almost like trucks delivering from a factory to a store. That's kind of an analogy for communication. It's you load up this expression with meaning, and it's a vehicle to move your communication along. So, and I'm only focusing on this possibility just because you mentioned that. So that there was some kind of negative thing. The boss wasn't happy. It was negatively affecting the coworkers, and it isn't specifically stolen cars. I think that's all kind of a representation or analogy in your head. I don't know all that shit that I just said. I'm going to pause for a moment and let you kind of say your thoughts, whatever they may be.
No, I see what you're getting at. I don't disagree with it. I mean, but I see where you're getting at, and I probably have to mull over it for a while.
Sure. Yeah, and you don't have to have thoughts right away. If you do, share them. If you don't, that's okay. Okay, so that's an idea. Yeah. That's fine. And all of this, so you've set this at work in your head. I don't know that this is all what the dream is actually about is work related at all, if that makes sense. I think work is kind of this dream could be taking place in the Taj Mahal in India. It could be taking place in the Amazon jungle. And it's like the setting matters, but you've never been there. It isn't really about that place. It's about the idea. So we're getting kind of connecting links that kind of tell us that there's something going on there. So there may be something in another setting in your life, your home life, your social life, hobbies you're participating in, anything else. And we're making an analogy to, okay, this is like work. This is like, I'm at work early. It's the wrong season. There's not enough light to understand or see and it's like screeching cars that were stolen. And then that's your assumption too, that the car that went screeching out that was a stolen vehicle. What?
Yeah. And it's weird the car was stolen because we park in a secure facility. So, I mean, you have to wait for the gate to open, wait for the gate to close before you can come in and out, right?
Gotcha. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. And that's, I would say, not surprising. The idea that, that lends more credence, I think, to the idea this isn't about work necessarily. You're showing even something that would be really unlikely at work because that's not how anything works there. There's a gate.
Yeah.
But it's more of these themes of like, problem and coworkers suffering a loss or deprivation of their vehicle, their mode of transportation. Vehicles can also be related to, personal power in a lot of ways of like, there's something, say in social terms, like loserish, of like the guy that's stuck walking or got to take the bus because we can't even afford a car, and then there's also the, kind of the classic teenage male power fantasy fulfilled by a vehicle of being able to travel fast and have a muscle car and have, I can get girls and that kind of thing. That's one way to go with it is those connecting analogies. So a car isn't just a car. It's like sometimes a cigar isn't just a cigar, so to speak. But sometimes it is. So, I'm not, and again, if I ever try to go down a road or rattle a doorknob and you're like, I'm not feeling it. I don't know. You can say, no, I don't think that's likely. Okay. Where was I at here? But your car had been left alone, and there was maybe one other car next to you. So there's an idea here, I think, of, you are personally unaffected by this. You did not suffer the same loss as other people, and someone close to you also seemed protected from it. So it's not you necessarily, and it's not your immediate circle. Maybe, do you know who that car belonged to? That was, you don't have to say, but was it someone you know?
I don't actually. The car that was next to me in the dream was completely, wasn't a car that's actually owned by anyone here.
Okay.
And, so I don't know who it would be.
Yeah, that's interesting too. So why would that happen? Why would there be an unknown vehicle, whatever vehicles represent here, close to you that is also unaffected? It could be a representation of randomness. Well, they skipped over me, but our dreams usually aren't that, I'd say, random. There's like a reason why your car wasn't also stolen. It's like this is a phenomenon that.
Oh, yeah. Now I remember.
Go ahead.
Because after that dream happened, I was thinking, in the dream, I was thinking, because the cars stolen were nice, fancy, like upper, what do you call it?
Expensive?
Upper trim Mercedes or some, shit like that.
So
and my truck isn't really desirable per se. It looks like, garbage.
Yeah. Mine's, I also have a truck older, like a 93 or something, but because of the brand, it is a kind of a high theft thing because, it's got like 170, 180,000 miles on it and it's going to run 350,000. It's one of those cars that's still running after 30 years and will probably run for another 30 years. So that's why it's got, but it looks like a piece of crap. I call it, from Saturday Night, I stole it from Saturday Night Live. I call it urban camouflage. Oh, look at that truck. Looks like a piece of shit. Yeah, but it runs like a champ. So just stay away from my car. Yeah. And I put the club on the steering wheel everywhere I go. Yeah, I don't mess around. I had a truck stolen once. 5 years ago, from my work parking lot. That was patrolled by security, but not scared. They just came on in and just gone. I came out for a lunch break and I'm like, did I park there? Where did I park today? No, it's gone. Shit. So I know that pain. Have you experienced, this is probably a stupid question. I think the answer is probably yes. You have had a car stolen or know someone who has?
No, never. No. I don't know anyone who has it. And I had my license plate stolen once, but that was the only thing that ever happened.
Okay, fair enough. How old am I? I was just 40 years of my life. I'd never had a car stolen. Finally happened. Maybe it wasn't a stupid question. So this is actually a representation of something that has actually never happened to you. That may be significant in terms of using that as an analogy for whatever we're actually, considering in the dream context. But there does seem to be something significant. Well, certainly. But to the idea that these are nice vehicles being taken and you were accidentally or fortuitously unaffected because of the relative status of your vehicle. So this would be some way of, I don't know why, first world problems or rich people problems comes to mind. That concept. Like it's like a, what am I trying to say? It's an accidental benefit of being lower class, quote unquote, is that you don't have certain types of problems that other people with more money or power or whatever deal with, where they say mo money, mo problems, that kind of thing. So yeah. So there may be an element of that going on here of like, 'cause I'm not in whatever superior position has to deal with this type of thing, but it's more like witnessing a phenomenon that's affecting other people in a very literal sense, because your car wasn't stolen. Yeah, thinking about that. How did you feel about what you were witnessing? Were you, scared, happy, indifferent? No feelings whatsoever?
Yeah, I don't recall having any feelings at all towards it. Neither did anybody in the dream, really. It's like, okay, this happened. Oh well, it is what it is, I guess.
Okay. Interesting. I don't know what to make of that. It would be understandable that you would maybe have no emotion. Your neutral, dispassionate assessment of a situation you're observing. Fair enough. But they didn't either. They were like, whatever. So maybe you are witnessing some kind of a problem, maybe related to communication, that you're noticing as a problem, but not only do you not have any strong feelings about it, it seems like they don't care either. So maybe there's something going on with that. I don't know if phrasing it that way means anything to you, but or brings anything to mind.
Maybe so.
Okay. Well, we could put a pin in that, and I mean that's where that thing ended. And how did you wake up from the dream? An alarm? Like you set an alarm?
No, I just did I have an alarm? Wait,
Like if I was taking a nap in my car, which I don't nap, I can't, but I would definitely set an alarm not to be late for work. It's just kind of but I don't want to.
Oh yeah. I have alarms. That's what woke me up.
But did you wake up on your own, or did the alarm wake you? Because those might be separate things.
I think I woke up. I usually wake up. I mean, when I first set an alarm, I'll wake up with it. Then after a while, my body gets up like 5 to 10 minutes before the actual alarm rings.
Okay. And that may or may not be significant too, because what we've got is a situation where your dream was not necessarily interrupted by a sudden rude awakening. You weren't cut off from the chain of thought. It seems like it had actually naturally expired, and maybe you brought it to a conclusion because it's a weird thing. How the hell do we do that? How do we wake up 10 minutes before an alarm? We are unconscious. How do we know what the hell time it is?
Yeah.
We do. It's somewhere in our subconscious. We've got this mental clock that tells us how long things have been happening. I don't think it happens. Just like you are a uncommonly ubiquitous, vivid, high recall dreamer. I think there's people who are more and less capable physically. I think that's something about how your body and brain are physically constituted that gives you this ability, in a sense, that I lack. I do not have dreams I can remember every night. It just doesn't happen. I don't have dreams I can remember once every 10 years. I did start a new medication recently, which I'm having more recall that I had dreams. I know that they occurred and the imagery and the experience is gone, but typically my experience is I wake up and it was just like from a coma, from nothing. Suddenly, I blink while I'm listening to stand-up comedy as I'm passing out, and then it's morning and my alarm's going off. Rude awakening.
I mean, I'll have dreams and I'll get up and I'll remember them, but I get so busy, getting ready for something, then I'll just immediately forget the entire thing.
For sure. Yeah. No, that's okay. And but for me, it's like, I don't even wake up remembering anything. I just know that I was dreaming, which is actually unusual for me. So it's very much, all of this to say, it's very much linked to biology. And I think some people are built differently, or everyone is built differently. So it's not unusual at all. We're going to have different experiences. Long story short on that, we have now kind of a an interruption, and you've got things happening at work, physically in the real world, that causes a delay. And then it was a nap in your car, and you distinguish that from a nap on a break later. So this was your lunch break. You were able to sleep longer.
It was kind of like, I felt the third time was downtime.
I'm sorry. I had it. You were at home for the first section. Now you're napping in your car. So now you've actually gone to the physical location where the first dream happened. And that's where you're taking a nap before work.
Yeah.
Wow. And I mean, that's it. In a way, it's like you're entering the space of the dream world. You're early, as you usually are, and you're parking where you did and saw that stuff. So I would say almost it's not a surprise that you would have this connection where you would go back into that dream, because now you're actually highly cued to remember that vividly and to have that on your mind as you drift off to sleep. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. How often would you say you have dreams that are connected like this, that you go back to the same dream? This is unusual?
Yeah, pretty unusual.
Okay. Well, good deal. I would think then maybe the fact that it happened is related to being in that environment from the first dreams. Like, wow, this is where that dream happened. And so, yeah, so you're thinking about it as you drift off. And anyway, not all that critical, but it does give us an idea of why it prompted it and brought it back to mind for the next dream. But then and also the idea that being at work prompted you to dream of work. Is that, would you say that's kind of a typical thing that happens when you're at work, is you kind of have dreams about work or work related, or is it the opposite? You kind of fantasize away from that and to get me out of here. I'm on my break. I don't want to dream about work.
I mean, I wish I didn't dream about work, because it's like I'm out of, when I leave work, I don't want to be thinking about it, but
yeah,
it just happens.
Fair enough. Yeah, and it's not, like I said, I think I said earlier, I don't remember what it was before or after on this recording here. But we spend a lot of our time at work. I think it was on this, and we it's not at all uncommon. We're going to dream about that if it's a significant part of our life in terms of that. So apparently the work you do is then related to working at an airport specifically. I don't want to get too specific necessarily, but we kind of got to know maybe a little bit about the nature of the work, or why it would, what am I trying to say? I'm not trying to say anything about your work. I'm trying to say, and you did mention, I think, part of your work, at least currently, whether it is consistently or not, is taking place near or around airport tarmac.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. And you mentioned another road, but you said tarmac or road. If you visualize the airport tarmac, the reason they call it that versus a road is that that's where the planes land. It's asphalt, maybe, but it's the landing strip.
Yeah, the area where the planes are is, what is it called again? I can't remember the acronym. Area of operations. That's
okay.
That's the area where I'm not, average workers like us aren't allowed to go. You have to be a plane or a cop or some firefighter, whatever. I mean, it's the roads that drive around, terminals and on the outer rims of that, where I like all the tugs and refueling trucks and those things you see, drive around.
Okay. So which area were you in? Were you in that area of operations working?
No. We were
on the outskirts.
Yeah. It's the road that's inside the airport, directly across on the other side of the fence from my actual work.
Okay. And then finding the young woman from India, she was on the tarmac area of operations area, or on your side of the fence outside that area?
Yeah, she was on the little road.
Okay, so she was also outside, but near. Okay. And I don't want to gloss over this too, but they were No planes, no people, no one driving.
I mean, it was me, that woman and a couple other of my coworkers, and we were just standing around there for some reason. I don't know why. We weren't doing anything. It was just, we were there.
And what I wrote down was no planes, no people, no one driving.
Yeah, no background, NPCs per se.
Sure. But also, like, so you're at an airport, but there were planes. Do you mean there was no planes and people moving around? Like in the distance, you could see there were planes, but they were parked, or they're gone? No planes.
Yeah, they were parked.
Okay. Gotcha. So a roughly typical setting, but no activity. There's a lack of activity of people moving around. Okay.
Right.
And this young Indian woman was not a coworker, from your life. Was she a coworker in the dream?
No, not at all. She was a random person.
Any visual representation of her? Long hair, short hair, tall, short person?
I'd say 5'7", straight black hair. Not exactly. I want to say she was from I want to say she was Bengali, but at least that's what came to me in the dream. But say her skin tone more closely related to like a Punjabi.
It is interesting that you would have that thought. Because I might have a vague concept of, say, an Indian actress that I saw in a recent movie. And I'd say, oh yeah, she looks Indian. I mean, but I couldn't describe why. What is it about her? Like, she just looks like that's where she's from. That's what people look like from there. But you're like, you dialed it into actually a kind of a region. Do you have a fascination with that area? Do you know a lot of people from there? Do you live in a neighborhood where that's more common? You can tell the difference. Like, I can tell the difference between someone from Vietnam and Japan, but I couldn't tell you who's from Bengal or Punjabi. I couldn't tell you, but you can.
I mean, generally it's facial features and skin tones.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, you can tell the difference between for example, somebody from Vietnam and Cambodia just by their face, and the same kind of deal with a Sri Lankan and a northern person from the northern Indian subcontinent.
Sure. Well, I think that is something you have better facility with. That is an ability you have that I lack, because I've met more East Asians. I've not met that many people from different parts of India to have that knowledge. So it would be very reasonable for me to say, have a dream, and there was a Chinese man and a Japanese man, and they were having an argument about something, and they represented different ideas. In my head, a conflict of maybe philosophical views based on a book I'd been reading, and I would know the difference. I could tell them on sight. But so the thing would be to maybe try to dial in, why did your brain want to represent this person as a specific type of Indian versus Japanese versus some white guy? I mean, it's a female. She's from India. There's something connected to all of that. So there would be, like, obviously this is where I was going with all that stuff is there's a reason you have that better facility. You've met more folks from that area. You live in maybe a high immigrant population area, lots of Indian people.
I don't actually. It's just usually I'll assign not in a bad way, but a label.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, okay, this person is. So I mean, so I can understand them better. Like, this person's from Cambodia, right? This person's Vietnamese. This guy's Filipino. Okay, this person is from Goa, whatever.
And this is In real life, you do that to help you get to know them better, like as a part of like building their D&D character sheet in a way. It's like that's their history and their culture, etc. Yeah. I suppose trying to dial in why this wasn't, say, a Cambodian man, but it is specifically an Indian woman. I wonder if there's and from a specific region. So any exemplars from your real life? Have you met someone from there that was specifically female?
No, I mean, I know. I mean, I met a few guys from other parts of India, but nobody, Bengali.
Okay. Any particular associations with that region in your mind, or with like, did you recently discuss or consider hear someone explaining their Hindu beliefs, say specifically religiously, and they mentioned that place, so that place then gets connected with religious beliefs with Indian people, and bam, we got a connecting train to why this woman is specifically from that area.
Not at all, which is the weird part.
Yeah. So you've got some associative connections with India, and it could have just grabbed random words that you kind of know, and distinctions you've picked up on, that you're like, oh yeah, I could tell the difference. Okay, so well, she was this kind. Fair enough. I've seen that type of person before, or at least I know what it is. But it seems like it wouldn't be like, you wouldn't pay attention to that. You wouldn't remember it. It wouldn't be a detail that comes out if it wasn't connected to some concept of why that particular person needed to be the vehicle or exemplar for the events that followed. So let's break away from that, just because I've asked you as many times as I can in different ways, and I mean, there's an answer or there isn't, or we haven't found the connecting thread yet. I think it's related to the behavior. So keep all that in mind as we go forward discussing the circumstances. You said she was bothering me. So what was she doing that was, like, we're talking bothering, harassment?
She wasn't exactly
her presence was irritating.
Bothering me. It was more like trying to talk to me while I wasn't paying much attention for the beginning.
Okay. So there was, again, here we go again. We've got a theme of communication. She is trying to communicate with you. And in the beginning, what are you doing there? You said you're kind of just hanging out, not doing much, but were you preparing to work? Were you there to work? What was on your mind in terms of why you were there? What was the purpose of being at that location?
That never occurred at all in the dream at all. It's like I never even thought about that. There was no indicator like, hey, we're here because of blah blah blah. There was nothing like that at all.
There wasn't even a connection of, I'm at the typical job site, of course we're here to work. That actually didn't occur to you at all.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. That's you keep that in mind too. That's its own unique thing. You're in a work-like environment, but not actually there to work, as far as you know. You're just there. There's no other people except you, a couple of coworkers.
Yeah.
Okay. Any you don't have to say, of course, their names or anything about them, but people, those specific people at work, how do you conceive of them or feel about them? Are they typically people you interact with much or get along with or have positive or negative feelings about?
I mean, I don't really talk to them because they're in a different, whatchamacallit, different positions than we are, and they have their own little work area than we do, and they do different stuff. So I mean, okay. I don't really know them or talk to them much at all.
Gotcha. And then we're kind of back to communication as well. You're actually with people you don't talk to. You don't have a regular dialogue with people you don't.
I mean, I'll talk to them if something has to get done, but other than that, it's, hey, I'm not there to, chit chat.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now there's difference. Like, let's say you're on a work crew and it's the same 5 guys every day, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. Yeah. Talk to each other. It's going to happen. Then there's people from other departments that you don't know and you have spoken to them, but they're relative strangers. You know them on sight, you know what they do, you know what their function is, you get a little feel for their personality, but it's not someone you talk to regularly. It's not someone you have a strong connection with. So you're actually there with people that in the work life social sense, they're not in your social circle.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, you've got someone, and then you've also got this gal who's unknown. She's not a coworker. She's just there, and she's demanding your attention. She's trying to speak to you, and at first you're disinterested or not paying attention. Don't really care what she has to say. You're not looking at her like, this is unusual. I better focus and see what's happening.
I mean, I was listening, but I wasn't fully invested.
Okay. Kind of passive listening, not invested. Gotcha. Yeah, and there's a difference. I think that's a great distinction, because when we are really focused and attentive, that's a big deal. That's like, and then there's kind of like, I'm being polite. You're talking, I'm not ignoring you, but I don't really care, and you're just kind of babbling. Any idea of what she was trying to say? Like, did you miss part of it in the beginning, and then you kind of caught on it was something important, or any idea what she was trying to say?
Probably at the time, but I can't remember anymore.
Okay. And it might actually be unsurprising that you don't remember, because you weren't actually paying attention. The important factor was that she was trying to communicate and you weren't actually listening. I think that might have been the takeaway from it. That might be what you were meant to get, is it was something like that. So how did it come about that she suddenly had a leg cramp? What was she doing, or what were you doing at that moment? Were you did you suddenly oh, go ahead.
That happened with the conversation was basically finished, and I started to walk away, and that's when it happened.
So you say conversation, but you weren't actually talking back to her. She was just talking at you, and you were aware of it.
Yeah.
And you were starting to move away from her? Walk away?
Yeah.
Okay. And then suddenly she collapsed to the floor, or lay down on the floor. How did that happen?
Yeah, laid down slowly, like it was, beginning.
Was she physically? Oh no, I didn't ask. How was she dressed? Anything unusual? Pants and a t-shirt, a sundress, head to toe, burqa, whatever.
Yeah, pants and t-shirt, nothing.
Just pants and a shirt. Gotcha. Yeah, just for my own visualization. And it might have been now that you think of it, she was buck naked. Oh, fair enough. That could have been a thing. And, it might not have occurred to you to have that really stand out. But anyway, long story short, was she dressed as you or your coworkers would typically dress on the job when you were going out to do work?
No.
Okay, fair enough. So we've got it. Just an interesting thing I want to kind of feed back to you and encapsulate. We've got this Indian woman who you don't know, who's not a member of your work crew. You were at a work site, but you're not there to work necessarily. You've got coworkers there that you're not in frequent communication with. You're not close to socially. You're not really having a conversation with them either. You've got her talking at you in a way that you're not really focused on or attending to. You're not telling her to shut the hell up. You're not doing anything to make her stop, but you're also just, you don't even care enough to remember what she said. Whether that's you don't remember it now or in the dream, the point was you weren't actually hearing her. Nothing stuck. She stops talking. She either finishes what she has to say, or she realizes you're not listening and she just stops. Either way, the speaking, the attempted communication ends. You go to move away, and in my mind, this is like an attention escalator. Oh, I've got a cramp. I've got an emergency. Suddenly pay attention to me. Now there's almost manipulative, but maybe not. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it didn't feel manipulative, but
okay.
see what you mean.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing. So we might imagine a person doing that of like, oh, you're let's say it's a kid of like, mom, you're not listening, mom, and then they escalate, they yell to get that attention. So whatever this image is in your dream, whatever it represents, is escalating to get your attention. It's like there's a new crisis here. You're not listening to my words. Let me have a physical crisis that grabs your attention, that shows you there's a problem here. Baby girl, you're laying on my notes. You can't be there. You can't be there. You got to move. You got to move. Wah. There you go. Lay right there. That's fine. That's fine. Anyone listening on the podcast? Yes, I've got a cat on my notes as usual. Anyway, that's where I was going with all that. And it turns out that it does succeed in grabbing your attention. This escalation of crisis. It goes from a something you can ignore to something you feel like you can't ignore.
Right.
You get that feeling in the dream?
Yeah.
And what is, so you're disinterested or indifferent when she suddenly collapses, even if it's a slow controlled ow, 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 when she sits down. How did you feel? Did you have, when that grabbed your attention? I mean, ultimately you intervened. You went to render assistance. Any emotional connection to rendering that aid?
Not really. It's just more like I saw it as okay, I have experience with how to solve this. Let me show you how, so you can do it in the future, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. And that is interesting that this, whatever this person represents, they're grabbing your attention in a way that you are capable of responding to. I mean, she didn't suddenly, her head didn't pop off and float away and you're like, well, fuck, I can't fix that. She specifically had a leg cramp, which you know how to deal with. And that got you involved as in a help providing, possibly teaching capacity. It's like, that seemed to be a dual purpose there of like, let me show you how to fix this so you can do it yourself if you need to in the future.
Right.
Okay. And then I assume there's well, I've had leg cramps before. It's a stretching and massage. You got to work the muscle loose.
Yeah, I mean, as what we used to do is you put the leg out straight, the foot facing up, and you, from the bottom, you're pushing inward.
Yeah.
Like you're up towards you.
And this is specifically a calf cramp she had?
I think so. I can't exactly say if it was or wasn't.
Or it could have been a hamstring, but I mean, it wasn't the quad. You weren't bending the leg backwards to loosen the quad or stretch the quad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Calves are the number one, I think, cramping muscle, which is really weird. I'm damn near, almost 300 pounds, like 280 or something like that. I can on one foot lift my entire body with the hinge of my ankle using my calf. That is a powerful fucking muscle. I don't even get it sometimes. Our legs are so strong, especially that. And it is because it's a very dense muscle that contracts very strongly. And it doesn't have to move very far to work the hinge of the ankle. So it actually has a tremendous amount of leverage. Just the body mechanics blows me away. Just like sometimes I think about it and go, wow. It's like, Babby's first philosophical epiphany, but that hits me all the time. So you go down there and help her straighten out her leg and do the stretching. And what is her response to that? Does her demeanor change? Does she do anything? Say anything?
I mean, the usual wincing, but nothing more.
Okay. It's kind of a normal pain response. And then you actually, your efforts are successful. You relieve the cramp.
Yeah.
And then once that job is done, then you get up to walk away again.
I sort of begin to by, like I said, sort of scooching to my left.
So you're like making motions to prepare to get up.
Yeah.
Start to move away and get up. Again, so you've approached, because the problem, whatever it is, whatever she represents, has shown itself. First, it spoke to you that wasn't efficient or effective. Then it had a quasi-medical emergency that appealed to your expertise to attend and make an interaction with it. Then when that was resolved, it still kept coming for you. Now it escalated to the bizarre. Now the leg was talking about the head pops off. Now the leg pops off and starts crawling towards you.
Yeah. I don't know what that was about.
And it was specifically the cramped leg that popped off?
Yeah.
So
she had no reaction to that at all. Like absolutely no reaction.
Yeah, and that's a very bizarre thing and a very disturbing thing. Like if I'm just sitting here in real life talking to you and suddenly, oh, my leg popped off. Well, anyway, no, I'd be like, what is happening? I'd lose my shit. So the fact that she was kind of blasé about it, that might be an interesting point, but it's definitely, your attention is getting focused further and further down on more intensely. You okay, baby? Sometimes she has these little coughing fits. Gotta cough up some hairballs. Come on, boo-boo. Okay. Go be a weirdo somewhere else. Come on. We might get a hairball on stream. Yeah, and again, it's so focused from her words and her general presentation down to a specific kind of crisis, interactive emergency thing. And then that leg that got cramped that you fixed pops off and tries to come with you in a way. It's like, no, I'm coming with you in a sense of like, or I'm coming to you. You got to move, boo-boo. You got to go. That's enough. I love you. It's not, can't lay on my notes. And you were rather shocked. You're like, this is not right. That's not supposed to be happening. Oh, no. You said other people were not shocked. She was not shocked. That's what you were saying.
Yeah.
How did you feel about it? Were you like, whatever? Or were you like, that's strange? Or were you like, oh my God? How did you feel?
Yeah, it was strange, but not exactly horrified or shocked or anything like that.
Okay. Yeah, there's something about like a narrowing of attention too. It's like once you failure of attention, a success of attention, and then a narrowing of attention on this very specific thing that's like what's the takeaway? The takeaway is the leg. It's going with you. It's going with you to the point of popping off of her body, and like that's the real important part. So there's something about the leg, the cramp, the experience that's all analogous or related to something else, and it seems to be in your expertise. It seems to be in your in an area you actually understand and could do something about, and that you're going to take something away from the experience. I don't know if any of that is inspiring any thoughts. Just trying to encapsulate this for myself too.
Maybe
some things you would rather not say, or you're just not sure what to say.
Yeah, not sure.
Okay, fair enough. We might just be pointing you in the right direction of where to continue considering. It's hard to get some of these things dialed in. But then again, we're not there yet. We're not to the very end, so we might go back and there's ends up being a connecting thread. This time, how did the dream end in terms of alarm, woke up on your own, etc.?
Which one was this?
This was the nap in the car before work.
Oh yeah, this was like, I think it was a couple minutes before my alarm began.
Okay. So what? Yeah. So it feels like whatever you were considering, that was the end of it. That was the final vision. How long did that going to move and the leg crawl towards you segment of this dream end in terms of did you walk pretty far in the lake, kind of hopped after you, or what was that experience? Like you said, there was more like a crawling type of thing, like the little toes were making it walk.
Well, like a sort of snakish
Was it doing like an
movement.
inchworm thing or kind of a ziggy-zaggy snaky thing?
Yeah, kind of like a slither.
Okay.
Or trying to at least.
Interesting. I mean, how would you imagine a leg would work? It would hopping came to mind. It pops off her body and then da-doing, da-doing, da-doing comes after you. I'd see that in my head. The other one is like it would, bend at the knee and it would grab with the heel and pull, or it would be standing and walking on its little toes. Who knows? That's why I want to get yourself. It's more of a snaky thing. It's kind of slithering after you. Any associations with snakes? Like them, hate them?
Not really.
Have you handled snakes before, or would you, or
No, I never had. I never even. Truthfully, I've never thought about snakes at all until you've just mentioned it now.
Any strong associations pop into your head in terms of I like snakes, I don't like snakes, I would like to touch one, I would never touch one? What do you think?
Well, I don't really have any opinions on snakes per se. I'd say.
Okay, kind of
Like,
also
hey, cool.
indifferent. You said they're kind of cool.
No, I mean I said they just kind of, to me a snake exists. That's
all right.
How it is.
Fair enough. Yeah. And again, this may have been like, well, your brain says the leg's going to move. And you're like, how does a disembodied leg move? Like a snake? I don't know. So it may, the fact that you're indifferent about it is kind of like, yeah, whatever. Maybe have just been, you're going to represent it to yourself somehow. There are elements in dreams that are like that. It's like, so I went to the airport. I'm like, well, how did you get to the airport? I mean, I don't know. We were just there. We drove. I don't know. I'm like, okay, never mind. How did people get to the airport? How did you get to where you were at with this work scenario? You didn't mention transportation at all. I assume it's not that relevant. So not a big deal. On to the third part here. Where is it? 1, 2, 3. So so the first dream you were sleeping. I was mischaracterizing this earlier. The first dream, you're at home, you're sleeping. Second dream, you take a nap in your car before the start of work. Now you've got the phase where a bit of work time and experience intervenes between the second dream and the third dream. Third dream is a nap on a break. And how long was that? 5 or 10 minutes or what?
Between the second and the third, that was maybe between 6 and 7:30 at least.
What time?
So
what time does your work typically start?
If I'm there at my alarm goes off at 5:25, I'm in work at 5:30, and then if I don't have anything right away, then I go back to sleep in my car.
So this is between 1 and 2 hours later,
or about half an hour, I'd say, or 45 minutes.
Oh, okay. So you'd barely started your work day, at all, and you were like still kind of sleepy, and you're like, fuck it, I'll just take a break.
Yeah.
Okay, so not a lot of work time had elapsed. Without being too specific, perhaps for your anonymity, how would you characterize what you did in that time? I mean, is there a little bit of a routine? I mean, of course you clock in and then you go to a specific location in the building and that's where the work is supposed to occur, and work did or didn't occur. Because it seems like very quickly you realize what I'm supposed to do I'm not able to do that yet. Or I did everything.
As I go into work, I hear our shift hears the pre-shift briefing, or the daily briefing in the morning, safety briefing or whatever you call it. And then you get, hey, you're on this task today, you're on this task today. And if you're on, say, this task, most of your day doesn't start until the actual sun is up, because you need to perform visual checks on things that needs daylight.
Fair enough. So the only thing you did was attend that briefing or meeting, and then your sign task was not scheduled to begin for a short period of time. She's like, nap time. I got the ability to take a break.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah. And then apparently the work doesn't care, because they're like, yeah, you can sit in a chair over there. You can sleep in your car for 10 minutes, whatever you want to do.
I mean, they don't like it when you go back to sleep. I mean, I could get fired for sleeping again, but it's like if I'm in my car, they don't know where I am. So
no, that's very true. Okay. So that might actually be a relevant type of thing. You were getting away with something a little bit that was a little bit risky, but you're like, I'm just tired. I just need to close my eyes for a minute. And,
right.
What I would do is, of course, deny sleeping. I would resting my eyes.
Yeah.
I was awake. I was awake the whole time.
That's one of the guys at work does. He's like, "Oh, I wasn't sleeping. I was praying."
Right? Absolutely. Head down in very serious prayer. Okay. So this dream, you said something about all the same people, but not a few specific coworkers at this house. So I forgot the connection to who all the same people were, like from the second dream or the first dream, the ones that had their cars stolen. Who are?
Yeah, the first. All three had the same people in it. It's just that some were missing in the third.
Okay, gotcha. Well, some were missing in the second. Like you were out there with just a couple other people, and
yeah.
Okay,
it was even less people in the third.
So, how many people are in the second dream total, and then how many are in the third?
About maybe like 6 in the second, and only 3 or half that in the third.
And the young Indian gal was not there.
Right, she was no more.
Okay, and these 3 people. So we keep narrowing it down. There's a problem that affects a lot of people. Multiple stolen cars, more than 6.
The only either 2 or 3 were stolen.
Okay, so it actually didn't affect that many people, but still a problem. Yeah, I didn't ask how many cars were stolen. That's how many people were affected. So there were more people visually present in the first dream, less in the second.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And now we're narrowing it down even fewer. Almost seems like you're narrowing down is it's less and less people. So it's more maybe about these specific people. So there might be a need to kind of say a little bit of, without identifying features, kind of hard to say sometimes. If this was private counseling and therapy and we were doing an actual session, you can tell me their names, home address, you can tell me everything. I mean, it's going on the internet, so we can't do that. And your anonymity, that kind of thing. They haven't given permission to talk about them. So it's a very different restrictive context, but there's probably going to be something related to why those people. And it's still people from another department. It's not your direct coworkers.
Yeah.
There might be something related to the department they're in. Did you say something about that or not? I don't know if it's, but like we could be vague about it too. You could say, I'm in shipping and receiving, they're in accounting. Is it okay to say what department they were in or the type of work they do?
They're the maintenance team. They're the people who actually, fix shit that's broken.
Okay. And you'd say that's a critical part of what you do in terms of they're not just, janitors and facilities guys. They're they maintain the equipment you use when you're out in the field.
Yeah.
Okay. That's an interesting connection too. So these are the people that if they don't or can't do their job, you can't do your job.
Right.
But you're not close to them. They're in a different department. You've had communication. You rely on them in a real sense, even though you don't spend a lot of time working with them directly. Yeah, that's interesting too. So was it primarily maintenance people that got their cars stolen in the first dream?
Yeah, because most of the people on my shift don't have nice cars. It's only maintenance.
So this is actually kind of drawn from real life in that sense. Not everything is, but very interesting. So we've got, some things. I mean, I don't know if anything's starting to come together for you. You're starting to see a thread running through the dream. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, or it's nothing's inspiring. For me, it's still kind of vague, but it's there. I see something. It's like discerning an animal trail in the woods. Like I think that's a rabbit trail, that kind of thing. I don't know if anything comes to your mind.
Not really, because I don't. Explain what you're thinking of, because I don't know what.
Well, this is kind of why I talk out loud, because I don't know what the hell I'm talking about at all. But I didn't know, and I didn't ask, and it just came out that it's the maintenance guys that got their cars stolen. It's the maintenance guys that were with you out on the tarmac at the airport. It's the maintenance guys now that are with you in the math teacher's house. This is all related to that. Now, it may not be related to them, but what they represent to you as from the work environment, the nature of how you rely upon them, the nature of the work they do that makes your work possible. Maybe a bit of a class envy type of thing of like they get paid more than you, they can afford better cars. So there's that. Probably we're talking about the problem of, well, this is a problem that didn't affect me because it's affecting people of a different type. And one department to another is a different in type or class. You're classed as this type of worker, they're classed as a different type. So it doesn't have to even be a rich and poor class type of thing. And so you've got these people affected by having a loss or deprivation. In the first dream, you've got them present at the second dream with the lady who's trying to get your attention, and they're kind of not involved, but they're present. It's still related to them. There's a bunch of them there, and they normally wouldn't be with you on a job site. They would be at the place maintaining the things, right?
Right.
Gotcha. Okay. So that's just the first two dreams. Now we're getting into the third, and it's the same people, but it's fewer of them. It's actually more specific people. I would say what I'm trying to say is there's a bit of a narrowing here, which it's focusing your attention from the big picture to specifics in a way. And it's doing that also by narrowing down the number of people you're considering, until in this third dream, you've actually just got a couple of specific people that might be iconic of the type, or that you've had the most interaction with, or that you were most impressed by their skills, or that you thought were the biggest assholes. I'm trying to think, how do we characterize why those two people, or the however many, or the three of them, would be with you in this final segment specifically?
I'd say they vaguely looked like the ones that I've had the most interaction with, but they were still kind of faceless per se.
Okay. So you knew them as members of the maintenance team, not necessarily as specific people from that team, but you knew they were the people that you were, and I'm not trying to say closest to, because that's not the right way to characterize it. But we're in the horseshoes and hand grenades ballpark there. But it's the people you're most familiar with. Does that feel right? Okay. Yeah, because again, if they were from accounting and you've met Jim and Sarah, and they're the people you're most familiar with. Now, the other people, at least on site. You maybe haven't met them or you talked with them at a Christmas party once and not since then, and you work in the same building every day. There were people I knew, 10 years ago from work that I worked in the same building with them every single day. I saw them maybe once a month if we crossed paths, but I knew them. I just didn't know them very well, and they weren't very representative of anything. So it's more, rather than specific people, we are looking at the idea of this department within work that is connected to your work, that you rely on but don't have a lot of communication with. So there's some connecting thread there too of this. This is all, it isn't even necessarily about work. It could be, but I don't think it really is. I don't think you were dreaming about these people for a reason that's connected to work specifically. It doesn't feel like it so far. Maybe, but more like the idea that they represent and how you're conceptualizing it in terms of whatever other problem it is that you might be trying to work through. You're putting it into this symbolic representation. Well, it's like this. It's like this story I'm telling myself. Anyway, long story short on that. So you're in your old math teacher's house. Now, how far back does this go? We're talking high school or?
Wait, say again.
The math teacher's house.
This was math. Math tutor. Sorry. This was, back in. Good Lord, maybe first grade, kindergarten.
Wow. Okay. I was thinking maybe, high school, middle school, elementary, late elementary, but you had a math tutor at as young as, 5 and 6 years old.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to guess you're probably like me and math didn't come easy. I'm not a mathematician.
Yeah, because in first grade they were teaching us multiplication, and that, when you're that young, it's like, what is this?
Wow. I don't remember that being a thing. I don't know that we ever did. I think we're still working on addition and subtraction. Were you in some kind of that may not matter. I was going to say, accelerated program, and then I was going to ask like school district.
Oh no, not at all.
Yeah, no, this was just common. This was just, this is what they did. They started teaching you and you just weren't getting it. So get a tutor, right? I think that's more the idea we're dealing with is remember when you were very young and you had trouble learning something. And so you had help with it. Go ahead.
Oh, this is related to the cats because the math tutor had cats that we would play with. Now it makes sense. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. So.
Well, no, for sure. Stop me anytime and throw that in there. In real life he had cats, and that was probably something you enjoyed about going over to see him. Yeah. Yeah, very much. Yeah, so we're getting into that range of, it isn't really about him or his house necessarily. It's more about your experience of it, thinking back to, and this may connect to the larger thread of the whole dream. There's something about communication, attention, understanding. These are themes going through the dream. And the next link in the chain, so to speak, is now you're considering a time when you had difficulty grasping a concept, receiving the communication of it in a way that lets you understand. So there's something going along there, going along those lines. And yeah, this one was like, I wrote down lots of details on this thing. Wait a minute. Oh, Jesus. Okay. I'm way ahead of myself in terms of like, we're just now starting on the second dream. This is the second dream. All that first dream was the first dream, right? The, Jesus Christ. I even wrote it down with numbers and I got, you were at work, there were stolen vehicles, then you're on the airplane tarmac and the leg crawls towards you, bam, second dream. Second dream starts with is nap in the car before work.
Right.
And the third dream that's nap on the break is you're in the work hallway. So this is actually before you do, this is even before you started work. This is all still happening. And it may not be, I don't think we drew any conclusions from the timeline. So I was just trying to get it straight in my head, and apparently I still didn't. I need a freaking tutor. how to pay attention. Okay, so and you said it's set up completely differently, and you said it's like a tree house, but you didn't know that until you got upstairs, right? That's where the tree house portion began, and it looked like Pirates of the Caribbean.
Right.
Okay, so the place you originally started was more of a normal looking room, living room.
Yeah, living. Yeah.
Okay. And that's where the stuff with the cats started. It was in that living room space.
No, the stuff with cats started up in a bedroom upstairs.
Okay. So
and let me mention the bedroom was set up like my mom's bedroom when we lived in our old house per se.
Okay. So, did the dream start in the living room or in that bedroom?
In the living room.
Okay. And then how did you move to the bedroom? Was it like down a hall, or like what was the circumstance that caused you to move from the common space visitors are to the more intimate or private space of a bedroom?
I don't recall it. Sort of the scene changed. It's
Okay.
like
You
boom,
were,
teleportation
you were in the
type.
living room with these coworkers, and then you were in the bedroom with them also, or alone?
Oh, the coworkers didn't appear until after we got upstairs into the sort of Pirates Caribbean sort of themed
Okay.
restaurant looking
Gotcha.
whatever.
And were you, did you have a sense of yourself while you're in the living room area? You were a child again, or you were your grown adult self?
Felt younger, but not like a child.
Any idea of the approximate age?
Maybe like early 20s.
Okay. So that's interesting too. So younger than you are now by a little bit, but much older than you were when it was when you had your experience in this house, when you were there to be tutored.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. So why that age? Why weren't you just yourself now? Or given the context, why weren't you why didn't you have a concept of yourself as, oh, I'm a child again. Of course I'm in this house. I'm 6 or 5 or whatever. I don't know if that area of your early 20s means anything to you in terms of experiences, life lessons, changing philosophical or religious perspectives, just anything that comes to mind.
I was in better shape, that's what.
That's what comes to mind. Sure.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So yeah. There was maybe a concept of peak physicality. The idea of this was when I was in better shape. I was better able to physically respond, say, or physically perform in some ways, job wise, or speed of running, different physical tasks. Gotcha. And then, did anything happen in the living room other than just recognizing the location?
No, just recognizing.
Was the math tutor there to greet you, or you were just in the space?
No.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we were just in there, nobody else.
Okay. Any features of the physical environment stand out? Did you notice a math book sitting on the table, some unfinished homework? The TV was on.
No, I mean, she had a sort of small little sky light, whatever you want to call it, and it was normal daylight shining in. But when we went upstairs, it was very late evening.
And then a scene, as you say, a scene change to you're in this bedroom with cats and it's evening.
Right.
Interesting. I don't know what it means. That's just, yeah. Why that scene change? In bedroom cats. And she had cats. And so you would play with them, and sometimes they were in her bedroom. Did you ever go there when you were young?
No, I never went anywhere else in her house. It was just, they'd come into the living room while we were doing math stuff.
Gotcha.
Like,
okay. But then you also said specifically you got to this bedroom and you knew it was the math teacher's bedroom in her house, but it was more composed like your mother's bedroom?
Yes.
Okay. And your mother you knew You knew she was or would be unhappy that there were cats there.
Would be, yeah.
Would be. So there was this and it's specifically because she has an allergy.
Yeah.
But you knew it wasn't actually your mother's bedroom? I mean, you knew it was definitely still in the tutor's house?
It was in the tutor's house, but it was my mother's bedroom.
Okay. Very interesting. So we've got two female role models. In a sense, we've got a math tutor that is in a motherly capacity, perhaps. I mean, she was definitely much old enough to be a mother in your mind in terms of, from, the perspective of a 5 or 6 year old. And then the bedroom you were actually in, you get this blending of the math tutor female role model and your actual mother female role model, for good or ill. Role model doesn't mean good necessarily, like great man doesn't necessarily mean a good man. So the role model can be anything, however you feel about him. You could have hated your math teacher but well, she was a bitch, but she was good at math. Well, fair enough. There's respect there.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of blending that it's like there's a comparison between the two, that they actually, the concept of them exists in the same space. I mean, you're literally putting them in the same physical house, but it is your mother's bedroom. So maybe even nested within the role model of the tutor is then the more intimate role model of the mother, and in the most intimate space, the bedroom. Go ahead.
What's up? No.
Oh, I thought
No.
I thought you started to say something. I did.
No. I got interrupted. That's why.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
Fair enough. No problem. But what you've got in this space is it's a blending that doesn't match. It doesn't fit because there's elements. So we would say maybe there are conflicting representations of these two role models that if you tried to assess whether they were exactly the same thing, you'd say, no, there's differences. There are things one might consider unacceptable. I'm allergic to cats. They can't be here in this room. Versus, oh, I have cats and I love them and they walk anywhere they want. So there's it's kind of a judgment-free analysis in a way but it's like, how compatible are these ideas? Could I follow both of them and not be tugged in different directions? Is that making sense?
Yeah.
So there's that element. And then you're in this bedroom, and you said the cats were specifically orange and black and white.
Yeah.
And these were the real cats or just representative cats?
Cats.
You may not remember the exact cats she had.
No, I remember the cat she had, but they were nothing like what was in the dream.
Okay, so these were not her actual cats. These are representative cats of something else, perhaps, or the idea of catness, or the cat problem, so to speak. All right. Like 5 pages in here. It's good stuff. So the cat's not the same as real life. This is still section 2. Where are we at here? No, that's not it. Okay, we are on this. And these cats, what was your interaction with them? They were at them. They were walking around at a distance. They were
on the bed. No, I was carrying around. I was holding them. They weren't really walking around. I'd carry them to here and there.
So you moved around the room carrying one or both?
Yeah.
And what did you do in the room in terms of why carry them anywhere? Were you just pacing back and forth, or?
Well, I mean, when changing rooms, I would, but I'd just pick them up,
Okay. So you actually encountered them in this bedroom where you appeared, scene change, and then you took them with you to other rooms?
Yeah.
What other rooms did you visit?
I mean, it was only between the bedroom and that, Pirates of the, room.
Theme restaurant area.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you carried them with you upstairs.
Yeah. Oh, wait, no, we were already upstairs.
Okay. So this is where I'm trying to wrap my head around. I didn't know if I thought in my initial misimpression, obviously, I thought the bedroom was on the first level, and then you went to the second floor, and that's where the open roof treehouse looking scenario pirates thing was. So you're actually on the second floor, which is now your mother's bedroom, or represented there. But the cats that you knew belonged to the math tutor that were not actually welcome in the room, but they were actually also different cats. And then you just carried them out of that room into another room, and that room was the open roof Pirates of the Caribbean place.
Yeah, I mean, exiting the bedroom, you go across a wooden, sky rope bridge that, connecting each room was that wooden bridge type of deal that had the only room upstairs that had a roof was actually the bedroom.
Okay. Very interesting. Yeah. Bridge to, and any idea of how you were carrying the cats? Just like one in each arm over the shoulder type of thing, or they were sitting on your shoulders, or they were in a backpack? I mean, how did
my arm, like
cuddling them in your arms, cradling?
Yeah.
And they seemed to have no fear of you. They weren't struggling to escape. They didn't freak out because you're going over the sky bridge. They came with you, no problem.
Yep.
Okay, and then you get there, and and you had I kind of jumped ahead a little bit, and I didn't read my own notes. You said they were just impossibly adorable, these cats.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then that's a very strong, positive emotion. That's a drawing close type of emotion. We have things that repulse. We find them repulsive. They make us feel pushed away from, and then adorable things we are compelled to love, to adore. So there's something very appealing about these cats. What they represent, why they're in the dream is something that you're almost involuntarily drawn to. And you would, in this sense, and you did physically take with you into another experience that is even further removed. So you got this kind of progression from math teacher's house to mother's bedroom to almost a bizarre fantasy setting of like, this is not physically impossible. No house is laid out like this, where it's one living room, a different bedroom belonging to a different person, and now a rope bridge to a theme restaurant, Pirates of the Caribbean. But so it's no surprise that dreams are bizarre, because all of these things represent very different shades of something, or discrete instances of concepts. Where was I going with that? And not only that, it was like you had a representation of the place you went to learn something when you were having trouble comprehending a specific type of thing. So it isn't even about math necessarily, but I remember when I needed help learning something. Okay, now you're in the mother's bedroom where there's a mismatch, and like I said, two different types of female role models, and a mismatch between maybe their value set or their example of how to be a person in specific ways, or what the representation of an ideal feminine energy would be, that type of thing. And then you find something just impossibly, even in that mother setting, you find something impossibly attractive about a piece of someone else, and you take it with you into a completely new, different setting. That's, it's weird enough to say in the same house are two bedrooms belonging to different people. That are like, that's not, you would expect to find the math teacher's bedroom in that house and not your mother's, but you did. So that's actually someone else's bed, room nested in that space, and also connected to that space. Now someplace completely different that's far outside the connecting link of, what would be a commonly understood as a normal shape of a house. Now you're in a treehouse weird place, and you brought the cats with you. Why a rope bridge? I don't know, but it could have just been gone with the theme. Did it feel normal, natural? Like it just it was part of the scene change. Gotcha. Okay, so you actually get to this restaurant, theme restaurant looking space. Actually a restaurant, or just it gave the vibe?
Just gave the vibe of it.
As if a theme restaurant. So it was actually just a almost just a fantasy setting that didn't have any other purpose to it. Like it was not actually a restaurant. It was not a stage play. It was a room built, a space built in that style for whatever reason, just to be that thing.
Right.
Okay. I completely stopped taking notes over. Okay. And this is where the two cats suddenly had kittens.
They had them in the bedroom, but the scene didn't last very long in there before we went to the, pirate's room.
Okay. So I got this a little out of order. So who are you carrying across the rope bridge with you into the pirate's room?
All the cats.
Okay, so the cats had kittens in that room. So okay. So I've got the sequence out of order. I think that connects to what are we talking about here? Whatever it is you found appealing about the other person, the comparison, the difference between these two, and you had to say, well, which do I prefer? Which do I think is right? Which feels better? You got to make a choice. You got to go left or go right. You have your own criteria. So whatever those cats represent, that had a generative quality that, like, if you adopt a certain thing, there are consequences which follow from it. If you say, I embrace a specific path, you are then the consequences, well, I'm going to move down that path. And at some point you will encounter whatever is down that path. So kind of the consequence of saying this uncontrollable attraction to the impossibly adorable cats, that is going to spawn metaphorical kittens in that sense. And what you're doing is you're taking not only the cats, the generator, the initial decision or iconic representation of what that is, but all of its consequences with you. And you're holding them in a big bundle, and you don't have the sense that the burden is overwhelming. You're not afraid of dropping them. They're all safe, and you've got them, and you're just taking them with you.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that would be a different experience of like, this is an overwhelming burden. I love it so much, but I'm afraid I can't hang on to it. I'm crossing a dangerous bridge and I'm dropping cats and it's freaking me out and I'm panicked, and that's a whole different experience. But whatever it is, you're carrying forth this idea with you into a new space that is very fantastical. Not that there's anything wrong with that, or that it's necessarily that the fantasy of it isn't maybe the important part, but the idea that there's something represented by being in that space is where I'm going with that. The idea of it means something to you. Like, how do you feel about the Pirates of the Caribbean movies in general? We could just start there. That's the first thing that came to your mind when you're looking at that space. Like, that's how you would describe it. So,
because it reminded me of the ride at Disneyland. That's all I can think of.
Okay.
It wasn't necessarily related to the movies, but it's the closest comparison to give you an idea of what it looked like.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. No, and that's probably well, that's why I asked, because we want to tease that out a little bit. Is this a generic piratey type place? And you're like, like Pirates of the Caribbean, but it wasn't actually that. No, you said actually it was kind of like the ride more than anything. And that's when the last time you experienced that ride?
Like, what is it?
I mean, how old were
2014. How long ago was that?
That was about 9 years, 10 years almost.
Yeah.
So was this early 20s or late teens?
Yeah. About right before we graduated high school.
Right before. Okay, so you've got different, and you are still your early 20s self, as far as you can tell. Oh.
Yeah.
Hello. My wife's here. She's actually off camera, but yeah, they can't see you. My camera stops right here. You see that? Yeah. Hey, are you okay to take a break? It was ironic when you told me in the very beginning. I was like, well, this is a short dream. It won't take that long. Like, and then you have so many details.
To me, the first and the last are a lot to take in. To me, the second one is just like, okay, that happened. I don't think much about it.
Well, you suddenly reached that environment and you got across the bridge and you realized the cats were all gone once you entered that space.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that we were at the, we were at the end. We're more than halfway through that. So the last portion may take up to an hour, I suppose. But there's also meaning to the idea that, whatever this thing the cat's represented and the consequences of it, the generation of it, what it evolves into or transforms into, or what it spawns, literally in terms of a litter of kittens, disappears when you enter this new space. So whatever this new space is, you can't take that with you, or it doesn't belong there, or entering that space necessarily precludes whatever that is being with you or expressing it. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we would spend maybe a little more time talking about that. And that's just to go over that final section, which I think that's got a lot of detail too. It's got a lot of relevance. I mean, it's got quite a bit of stuff. Then the reason I think it might take a while is we're going to do that final section as well. Then we got to try and find the story arc that goes across all three, that ties them all together. Why? What are the connecting links? Because Yeah. So I want to give us enough time. Yeah. 2 p.m. Monday works for you. We'll do that.
Okay.
All right. Sounds good. I'm sorry we ran out of time. It would have been nice if
No.
we could have started earlier, but it is what it is. Benjamin the Dream Wizard wants to help you pierce the veil of night and shine the light of understanding upon the mystery of dreams. Every episode of his Dreamscapes program features real dreamers gifted with rare insight into their nocturnal visions. New Dreamscapes episodes appear every week on YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, and other video hosting platforms, as well as free audiobooks highlighting the psychological principles which inform our dream experience and much, much more. To join the wizard as a guest, reach out across more than a dozen social media platforms and through the contact page at benjaminthedreamwizard.com, where you will also find the wizard's growing catalog of historical dream literature available on Amazon, featuring the wisdom and wonder of exploration into the world of dreams over the past 2,000 years. That's Benjamin the Dream Wizard on YouTube and at benjaminthedreamwizard.com. Alrighty, throwing the recording on right now. Here we go, part 2. Yeah, as we were just saying, this is part 2. We split it up. Sometimes you run out of time. It's not my preferred way to do it, but I think it's not, it's better than not finishing. So it's okay. I've had to do this before too. Come back and get part 2 the second day. Run out of time with folks before, so it's not a huge deal. It is interesting for me though, because as you were just saying, like, catch me up, where the hell were we? So we had just left off on the end of the second dream, and you had arrived at the Pirates of the Caribbean theme restaurant that had no roof, or at least that's the what comes to mind when you think of it. And fair enough. And all the cats had disappeared. They as if they couldn't come with you. And I don't know if you have had time to let that percolate and think about what that place means to you and why the cats couldn't come with you. Does anything come to mind now that you've had some time to sleep on it, etc.?
The Pirates, the Caribbean, or type of, setting, that's appeared other dreams before, but
Okay.
I still don't like the significance of that would be.
Well, maybe tell me a little bit more about what made it seem like Pirates of the, and you said specifically more like Pirates of the Caribbean, the ride.
Yeah. Because fishing nets, barrels, and wood paneling and all that stuff. That it mostly reminded me of the ride at Disneyland, because that's the closest thing that came to mind.
Sure. Yeah, it's very nautical theme. I mean, you've got pirates in the sea, and I mean, does that speak to you in any particular way? How did you enjoy those movies or the ride or
I mean, every time I would go on the ride, it would break down. So I mean, that's the only significant part about it.
interesting? That might actually be significant. That's a pretty strong memory of that experience with that setting. Is you get your hopes up and then they're kind of smashed a little bit, and it's broken down, and you don't get to have the experience.
I mean, I think when the ride breaks down, it's funny because all the lights turn on and the animatronics stop, and you're
Oh,
just laughing.
okay, so it's actually kind of a comical situation. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is very
At least,
interesting.
at least to me.
Fair enough. No, and that's what matters most is what's in your mind when you're experiencing it, and then when you reflect on it. So that there's an interesting thing there. It's like when something goes to shit and it's hilarious actually, but it's still broken down. I mean, it's still a non-functional. It's just you're kind of laughing at the circumstances. So yeah, so you've come in this dream. You're coming to a place of that represents that, a kind of involuntarily hilarious breakdown of whatever it is, and the cats don't come with you. They can't. Whatever they represent is by going into that space, it makes them disappear. Like they can't exist in that space. They don't belong there. Something like that. Did you give any thoughts to the cats and that scenario? And any new thoughts come to mind?
Not about the cats, but
Yeah.
I see what you're at with that point there.
Yeah. It just seems to be the way of it. Or and just from the way you describe it in the story, it isn't like you're on the bridge to somewhere, rope bridge, and the cats disappear, and the somewhere ends up being the Pirates of the Caribbean place because the cats disappeared. It seems more the other way around. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not certain, but you usually the causal chain or links in the chain, the order that they happen kind of matters because you think one thought and then another. And if you thought them in a different order, they would mean something else. That's kind of where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
Well, we did get a little bit more interesting. I'm going to sneeze. That's my sneezing face. There we go. That happened. We did get a little additional nuance onto that thing and kind of how it fits, or at least connects. Okay, so we don't have to dwell on getting too many answers yet. We still got a whole third part of this, or third dream segment to go through. So in that one, you have arrived at work, or you suddenly appear standing at work in the hallway.
And I mean, I wanted to correct that because
Sure.
earlier today, I just, I was thinking about it again, and I thought, oh, fuck, I forgot to tell him. There's a whole beginning to that dream.
Okay, good deal. Yeah, let's shoot out some additional imagery.
I mean, it started off in a street nearby our house, and I was with my mom, and we were walking down the road under the bridge, and this road turns as like a I don't know, a 60-degree curve, and once we go under the bridge, I mean, on the other side of this tunnel, everything looks as normally would in real life. But once we come out from that side, from the other side, I mean, the world changes into like, you remember those in the early 2000s, a lot of toys and stuff used to have this clear plastic that was usually pink and orange and like a sort of light blue color, and when the sun would shine through it, obviously, the light would change, right? Obviously, but I mean,
You're talking like a thin plastic, like a cellophane tinted, a certain particular.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we go into these buildings that are completely made out of that stuff. And I'm thinking this looks, Easter themed, but it's not really. I mean, just the lighting and stuff. And the light everywhere turns this orangish color because the ceiling is that orange plastic. So all the light, the light that comes in is orange tinged, right? And something, I can't remember what, but there's something about mail, like, physical letters that we have to find. And at this point is when I walk through another door and I'm back at work. And then everything goes as I told you before.
Okay. Interesting. Did you have a sense of how old you were at the time? You said you were with your mother?
Yeah. I mean, well, my usual age, like...
Your current age?
About... I mean, I wouldn't say my current age. It was more like the very first part, somewhere... I'd say I physically felt 17, but I was probably like 24.
That's interesting. You had the feeling of being 17, but knew you were physically 24, and that's not your current age either.
Right.
Interesting. Those are specific, well, very specific ages. Turning points in your life around those times? I mean, things you discovered, experiences you had at 17 and then at 24 that might cue up why you needed to conceive of being at that intersection, but also all at the same time in the persona that's experiencing the orange glow and the cellophane through the buildings and kind of an Easter pastel, I guess, color scheme, kind of a pastel orange, maybe.
Yeah, that's a good word for it. Pastel colors.
Yeah, you said Easter. That's what I think of that. Probably not specifically related to Easter necessarily, but pastel. Then again, if it suggests Easter to you, it might well be.
I mean, that's how I describe it, Easter colors. But I mean, pastel is a better word.
Sure. Yeah, Easter colors. What about those specific ages in your life?
I mean, when I was 17, I had a lot of shit going on, but at 24, not really. Oh, wait, actually, 24. Yeah, nothing significant about that.
Okay. Well, you said you had a lot of stuff going on. So, very busy social life or very tumultuous, unstable living situation, 17 and things like that,
Unstable school experience, I'd say.
Okay. We getting into trouble or something like that kind of stuff, or?
Oh, I wasn't getting into trouble. I wasn't a shithead, but
Yeah.
I was failing my classes because I just didn't do homework. That's the thing.
Okay.
Homework was like 80% of your grade. And, well, it's like, I've been at school for 8 hours. I'm not going to do homework. Because there's,
Yeah, there is a. I've never liked that myself either. It's like, if this is our 40-hour-a-week job, what are we working, 60-hour weeks now? You know, we're not getting paid for any of it. Oh, well, you do it for you do it for your education. Fair enough. It's not like there's no benefit to it. But, yeah, I never liked the idea of homework either. Like, when am I supposed to, I don't know, go out and play? I didn't care for homework much either. So 24 was actually a very distinctly not unstable year in your life, maybe?
yeah.
Okay. Just comparing the two. Like, if a lot of things happened at 17 and kind of nothing happened at 24, why 24? Maybe it was a uniquely boring or uneventful year.
I'd say so, yeah.
Interesting. So you've got this need to visualize
Two
yourself.
sides.
Go ahead.
Yeah, two opposite sides of the spectrum.
I'm supposed to be vaping. I never do on stream. What am I doing? I just got it in my hand, so I'm hitting it. There we go. Yeah, and you are of course today the same person who was both that 17-year-old and that 24-year-old, and you are neither one of them anymore, and you are both of them still, all at the same time. There's kind of a thing going on there.
Right.
So, but in this moment, for some reason, you decided, I need to see myself as if I feel 17, the feeling of failure due to lack of effort, maybe, and a really boring period in your life, or uneventful, where really there's, you know, things are relatively stable, you know, instability. So you're like, you are the unstable factor. You feel unstable, even though things around you are relatively stable. And you with your mother, which is, how'd you feel about that? You were happy about it, indifferent to it, you know, that you're walking with her?
I didn't really have any thought about it. It was like, okay, this is happening.
Sure.
Nothing, no thoughts.
Okay, so no specific thoughts or feelings about it, but so you're walking with her, and you're heading towards a bridge, but you're going to pass under the bridge. You're not going over the bridge. So the bridge is going over you in a sense, but you're doing the traveling. There's something there in terms of you didn't show yourself going over the bridge. You went through a tunnel, specifically a tunnel under a bridge.
Yeah.
To come out the other side, and on one side was real life, and on the other side is,
I mean, when you're viewing from point A to point B looks like as it normally would IRL, right? But once you get to physically point B, it changed. That's what I mean.
Gotcha. Yeah. There's definitely a transitional space, a passing through, a coming out the other side, and things looking different. That's a very
Yeah, like Bridge to Terabithia, right?
Sure. There's that element to it. What I'm talking about is, but that's one way. I mean, there was it might be relevant that popped into your head too, because there was the experience of knowing that girl, and there was after the experience of knowing her, and never going to know her again. That his world was different afterwards than it was before, and different than it was during. So there's crossing thresholds in a way where it's a one-way trip. In some ways, we only move forward in time. We cannot actually go back, and experiences change us. We pass through an experience like a tunnel, like a transitional point, and come out the other side a different person, or with a different view of the world. And that's what I think I was going for with the idea of the orange light, as if through cellophane, as you seem to be conceptualizing this idea of now the world has taken on a different hue. It looks as if the light has changed. There's these visual cues that now you see things differently, if that makes sense.
Yes, the orange to me was like, you know, that gave the sense of your you know, calmness, warmth, contentness.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, it's good emotion. So whatever experience you're contemplating, um, it's not an unpleasant one coming out the other side of it, like, or coming through the experience and getting to the other side of it, existing on that other side is better, or at least good in some way. You know, it wasn't a scary light. It wasn't darkness with shadows chasing you. I mean, you specifically had a pleasant, warm feeling from it. Like, oh, this is okay. This is actually kind of nice.
Yeah.
And then that led you to some buildings. Were they of a particular kind? I mean, was it a fire station, shopping mall, apartment complex? Where were you going to look for these letters?
I can't exactly tell you because I mean that it was all that plasticky stuff, so it had no particular shape to it. It was just
Okay,
has a door, it has a roof, and
I forgot that element to it, that the buildings were actually made of it completely. So they were semi-transparent as well. You actually had the ability to actually kind of see inside, see through walls in a way. So that transparency and the fact that everything was made of it is like maybe the word insight comes to my mind, insight. And we think of it as, oh, I've gained better understanding of myself. And it is literally the ability to look within, sight, the ability to have sight within ourselves, insight. But go ahead.
And what is a head too?
Yes, but then so if you have other experiences that allow you can get insight on yourself. That's the typical thing. You can also have insight on external situations. Once we see the world in a new way, we have a new understanding. It gives us a new perspective, a better ability to understand what's going on around us. So this looks very much like some kind of epiphany experience, where you're like, you came to a realization on something and it was meaningful, and you're representing it in this way. Then you're looking for letters, physical mail. And what was the purpose of finding them? You needed to find them so that they could be delivered? Or
My mom was looking for them. That's the weird part.
it wasn't your idea. You didn't have that feeling. You're following her because she needs to find them.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So she's looking for, what are letters? Written communication? Any other ideas come to your mind when you think of letters?
Not really.
Okay. Seems like maybe it's an interesting thing going on. The thought that came to my mind was, you've got this new insight, but maybe she doesn't, and she's looking for specifically old ways of finding information or achieving communication. She wasn't looking for her lost cell phone, or she wasn't looking for the airplane to go skywriting. It's specifically these mail. And she's of an older generation, I'd imagine a little bit. So probably existed before the internet. So there's maybe a stronger connection with, this is something mom would do, is send and receive letters, physical written letters.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. This may be, when I say the idea that you've developed some insight that she hasn't developed yet, or can't develop. Does anything come to mind?
Wait, say that again.
Well, the idea that if we take my suggestion that you're depicting yourself having come through an experience and gained insight from it, and the ability to even see through walls represented that way, and this warmth, this good feeling that comes with it, and then you're following your mom, or working with her to help her achieve her goal, which is to find these letters, which is a different type of receiving communication or understanding, the written word versus, if I kind of put it that way, is there anything comes to mind of things it seems like you understand that your mom doesn't or didn't at the time when you were younger?
Not to me, at least. I mean, every time she asks me to find something, it's because she can't do it herself, so she needs, me to do it for her.
And that's still kind of a common experience these days?
Yeah.
Okay. So she needs your help. You've got the insight if we're running with that, and what she's looking for is it's a bit antiquated. It's a lesser form. It's like you're almost looking at it like well, and that would make sense too if there's a bit of a like if she needs your help finding something, it's because she can't do it herself, and you're depicting that in the dream, and that would match with the insight thing of like she might be looking for understanding that she can't find, and you're trying to help her. That just came to mind.
Right.
Yeah, I think there's something there. You can say something about it, or we can move on and just let it percolate.
I'd agree with you so far.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, not just is it possible to look at it this way, but does it feel right? You know, that kind of thing. So if you say you agree in terms of like, yeah, it seems to make sense, and it feels like we're onto something.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. And then you never did find the letters, like before they could be found. It transitioned to the work setting. You went through a door.
Right.
Okay. Let me get another piece of paper here. We're going on to page 6. I feel like Paul Harvey. And now page 6. I think it's 6, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Actually, 1, 2, 3. That all messed up. There we go. Okay, so now we're into the work setting thing, and then you walk through a doorway and you're at work in the hallway, and your mom's not there anymore.
Right. She's completely disappeared from the dream.
Yeah, so something about encapsulating that early portion, you'd thought through whatever it is you were trying to understand, and where that led you to is thoughts of work, of being at work, specifically of being in this hallway, because this is, you said it's kind of a big H-shaped building, and on the left would be offices, and then to the right is a room that is typically the break room.
Right.
So you're in hallways, passageways, tunnels. These are all kind of transitional spaces in a lot of ways. The hallway isn't usually a destination. It isn't usually somewhere we're trying to get to or where anything is done. It's the place you use to go from one room to another. So
the hallway has the time clock.
okay, good. Yeah, no, that's also very typical, but that's a good detail too. It is the place where you begin your day. It's the place where you officially commit to doing work by that act of punching in a way.
Yeah. And that's where I was standing in front of. I was messing with the time clock.
Okay, yeah. That was on the next line down, standing at the time clock. And you had just punched in or just punched out? Or say messing with it?
I was touching something, but I wasn't punched in or punched out or anything. I don't know what. There wasn't any details of that in the dream at all.
You said you were touching something. Is it you're messing with the machine itself? You're trying to do something to it?
Yeah, I mean, there's little, key buttons in it, I guess, and if you punch them, and if you don't scan your fingerprint, it doesn't do anything.
So were you pushing buttons and nothing was happening?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you're in a transitional space, kind of a space in between, but it's also the space where you, what am I trying to say? Where you commit to the beginning of work in that sense, it's like the act of punching in. So, but you're not able to, for whatever reason, the buttons aren't responding. You're in a,
Oh, the buttons do respond. I'm just not physically, making them do anything because I haven't scanned my finger.
So you're saying the buttons respond as in they go beep, boop, boop, but it's not changing the display. It's not performing its typical function. Can you scroll through menus and do different things when you're clocked out? Or don't scan your thumbprint rather?
No.
Okay, so it's showing that it's registering your attempts, but it's not really
Yeah.
it's not accomplishing anything. That's okay. Okay, good. That's kind of where I was going with it. Good to clarify. Um, which so you're in a transitional space and you're uncertain of your purpose. It's like you're at a crossroads and you don't know which way to go. Does that make sense? Does that feel right?
Right.
And you're at a place where you should have a purpose. You should be there for a reason, but it's not. But you're not. Mm, not at that time. Or the reason you would normally be there is not the reason you're there now. It's something else. It's not. It would be one thing if you saw yourself at the machine and you clocked in and you were heading to work or to the break room because that's where you would normally go before work. You spend a few minutes there after you clock in, say hi to people. But instead, you're not even clocked in. You're not even there. You're not even able to do the thing you're there to typically there to do. Like you're there without that purpose. So this is where I'm going with it in my head is like, okay, imagine you're considering this is about work, but it's not about the work. It's not about working. It's not the work side of work, if that makes sense.
Right.
Which is interesting because then you go to the break room, which the break room isn't for work either. Technically, it's a break from work. It's a room where you would rest, but also a room where you might socialize with coworkers.
Yeah.
But the break room is now represented as a butcher shop. It's tiled to, so that's easier to clean all the blood. And there's a butcher in there. The thing that comes to my mind is that you may consider it's possible you've got some association with the idea of socializing with your coworkers being related to the idea of a butcher shop. Like
Oh,
go ahead.
did I detail where it had the transition of within the butcher's story type of thing after the bull?
I can tell you what I wrote down. You want me to go through it all real quick, just and then you can tell me if I've got it right?
Yeah, up to the bull.
Yeah. So you've got the, on the right where the break room should be, but this is a different room. It's tiled. It's more of like a butcher shop. There's a man in black gloves and a black apron. There's a dead cow on meat hooks. There's kind of a steel non-porous table there. And then the orange tinted light comes back, or it also filters over this room.
Right.
Gotcha. And then he carves up the cow, and that the next is he pulls forward a dead body, and it's a human. He's going to carve up a human next.
Right. So before the dead body, I forgot.
Okay.
Or I mean, actually, once he pulls up the dead body, before I ask any other question, the first thing I asked him was, "How did that person die?" And as he explains it, I'm thrown into like this storybook scenario, through his visions, right? Like in a children's TV show where it has, the fade out or, to this different little mini story, right? Like in Wishbone or whatever.
Okay.
And it shows the dead cow in the back of a beige Toyota pickup. I mean, those old Toyota pickups that, you like see in Africa, right?
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. And it was the dead cow was in the back of the truck. The man was standing there with it. The bed of the truck had a lot of blood in it. The cow had not black, purplish, reddish, pink flower petals on its back. Only a few. And
you're driving through the bush, and they open up the back, throw the cow out as sort of like this offering to this unknown. I don't know what it is. There's nothing there, but there's a feeling of like we're offering this, to that thing, whatever it is.
Okay.
And that's when things transition back into the body.
And you never really got an answer to how did the man die? They just showed you that scene instead.
Yeah.
The man was there, but he didn't die in the vision.
Right.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
It's like I don't know what it seems like maybe the cow, the bull and the body are related somehow, but I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, the man is related to the bull, and they're both getting the same treatment from the butcher, is the idea.
Right.
Yeah. And one is a sacrifice, and maybe the man is also meant to be a sacrifice in his own way.
Maybe.
Yeah. Interesting. You've got there's an ancient tradition of sacrificing animals, 2,000 years ago and whatnot. So that concept could be in mind. And we still, in a sense, sacrifice them to our need to live, our hunger, etc. There's an interesting thing, that you've made the break room the butcher shop. And so there's some kind of butchery going on there, and some kind of sacrifice, maybe some kind of ritual sacrifice, some kind of something that it's easier to understand as the cow thing. Okay, I get that. And then, but actually the real point of it is that it's more of a human sacrifice. Something comes to mind with me that, I've been in some workplaces where I wasn't as well liked as I could have been, very young and whatnot. And, sometimes if there's a culture of teasing, sometimes the guy that, let's see, if some of the it's almost like back in high school, popular kids, they tease the dork or whatever. And then it's like, okay, I get it, and you just kind of got to take it because whatever. I mean, do you feel, well respected at work, or do you feel like maybe you're the butt of some people's jokes and some assholes have it in for you and it's just, you're not really enjoying it?
Shit, honestly, my boss thinks I'm the school shooter. That's the only problem I have.
Okay. Did we mention that last time? Did you, because that sounds familiar. Was that part of another discussion we were having? Maybe.
I can't remember that.
Okay. So it may not relate directly to coworkers. It could be more of a boss thing of like, this problem follows you everywhere, and even into the break room, and you're not free from it, even when you're not doing.
Oh, yeah. This happened before at a different job. It's like, what the fuck again?
So you've had the same feeling, and that may relate to the idea of what we were going with the insight thing of like you giving yourself representation of, come on, you know what this is. You've seen this before. And so you're giving yourself kind of and related to the whole like school failure thing of not doing your homework. Okay, this is what it felt like then, even if this isn't school and you weren't assigned homework and there's nothing you could do off the clock necessarily. It's all about job performance. And maybe it isn't even about that, because maybe you're doing fine. Someone just doesn't like your personality. And that's really hard to deal with, because it's like, I can't change who I am. I do the best I can. But that just popped into your head there, this conflict with the boss. So, do we want to try to look at the full range of all three dreams from that kind of angle of analysis of like, okay, are all three dreams kind of about, feeling that your boss just doesn't like you, and that's a very unstable, unsettling feeling. And what do you think?
I don't think he doesn't like me, but I can sort of sense he has an uneasy feeling around me.
Okay.
I mean, he likes me in the sense that, hey, I learn quickly, I do my work as I should, but still uneasy.
Gotcha. So, you said, you kind of laughed, and it's a bit humorous way to put it, but he thinks you're a school shooter. In terms of like, you get the feeling that he thinks you're very weird or strange or potentially
I think it's
dangerous.
because they, I think, personally, I think they say that is because I'm just quiet and I don't talk to anybody really.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that might relate to the whole idea of the the butcher shop being in the break room, is that there's
Oh, I see what you're getting at. Yeah.
the idea that the focus is on the awkwardness or discomfort or difficulty with social relationships, um, and you're conceiving that as a place where what do they say? It's like getting someone to talk is like pulling teeth, and that's kind of what you would do at what they used to call the barbers, and the barber was kind of also the butcher in a way that would do surgeries, and barber surgeon was a thing way back in the day. There's a very close relation to that kind of stuff, but it can almost feel like people trying to get you to open up when you've got social anxiety or um, awkwardness, or you're just not much of a talker. It can feel like, what are they trying to? It feels like they're trying to carve chunks off of me, like expose me in a way that's physically uncomfortable. So all kinds of that stuff that could be going on in there, but this is all me speculating. It's got to make sense to you. You said I see when I mentioned break room, social, butcher shop. What's the connection you see there? How would you phrase it?
No, I mean you said it pretty well enough.
Okay, fair enough. I don't want to put words in your mouth, or talk over you. But just I try to tell you what I'm thinking, and then if it makes sense to you, go, oh, okay, I see that. Yeah, that works. Or it doesn't. So that came to mind for this particular segment of that dream. And it may have been building up to that, or it may have been the train of thought across all three that kind of led you there eventually. That may not be the purpose of each segment. Um, but they are all work related, and they are related. So the first one, you've got, as we went over, you've got fellow employees that are of kind of an elevated status in some ways at work, and they've got benefits to it, and they're suffering a loss, but you didn't. Their car's stolen, mine left alone. It's because they have nicer things. Of course, people want to steal nicer things. Of course, they leave mine alone. So there's definitely um, a comparison type of thing going on there, of like looking at who and what you are compared to who and what they are. Um, then you've got the second portion of that where you're engaged in the work of doing your job, but and you're also there with some of the same people, and now you've got this female young Indian woman there, um, and there's an emergency that suits your competence, and you act on it, but then the leg itself wants to come with you or come towards you. It detaches from, so it's like it's not about her or a part of her as much as it's own contained thing. In some ways, it's like the what is it? What am I trying to say? There's an idea of like, if you show your competence at work in a certain way, you will. That's a good way to get extra work. Like if you show that you're uniquely capable of doing things, um, the boss will say, "Hey, great! Look, let's give you extra work compared to everybody else." So this sticking your neck up in some ways that doesn't really always benefit you, if that makes sense.
Right.
I don't know if that's making sense in terms of that portion of the dream, or what do you think?
Yeah.
Or any additional
Yeah.
thoughts?
I can't. I'm not. eloquent enough to add anything to it.
Fair enough. Now you can just be not eloquent. Well, okay. So if we look at that thing and kind of encapsulate it too, so we've got you looking at why did their cars get stolen? Their cars get stolen because they were nice. Why did they have nice cars? Because they get paid more. Why did they get paid more? Because what they do is uniquely valuable. And then in the next section, you show yourself a representation of you being uniquely valuable, and then the problem follows you. So there may be really something there of you like going, I could shine more at work. I could demonstrate my skill and ability, but do I really want to? Do I want to do better than I am now? Do I want to take on that extra work or responsibility? Does that make sense?
Right.
There could be something there. Yeah, you're just kind of running. In a lot of ways, our dreams are just thought experiments of like, what is this thing? What am I seeing here? What is my understanding of the situation? How do I feel about that kind of thing? Okay, well, if we go with that idea as kind of making sense. I mean, it works with the imagery and the experience.
Yeah.
Then you actually start thinking about your, in some ways, educational history. When you've had problems in the past where you weren't as competent, you needed a math tutor, and this is where I get a little, I mean, I'm just really uncertain what to do with, the cats and the fact that you're in her house, but then it's your mom's room. And I mean, there's definitely been, and as in other portions, there's representations of strong female role model type figures, the math tutor, your mother, and those are, not surprising. These are central figures in our lives sometimes that come to us at different points and really embody or become an iconic representation of the type in a way. Set our expectations for others of a similar kind. It is interesting that you have this very stark difference between the two. The one, say, female role model loved cats, and your mother has allergies to cats, so doesn't hate them necessarily, but doesn't want them around, and of course can't have them around. So there's in a way, it's like if you had to pick one, you couldn't emulate them both. It's certainly not across one dimension. You couldn't emulate both at the same time, or enact their example in regards to the specific issue of cats. You would have to follow one or the other. You would have to say, I either, and there's a dichotomy there. I have cats or I don't have cats. But I think it's more of the idea of when you have two role models that you both respect, say, and believe are competent in their own ways, and they do things differently, you're like, okay, well, which one's right? So if we follow that through a little bit, this is interesting too. Okay, so if we tell this as a little bit of an arc across this, you were considering from the beginning, do I want to display more competence at work? Do I feel confident in that? Is that even something I want? Because it means extra responsibility. The leg I fix is going to follow me in that sense. Now you're in a self-questioning kind of dream of like, well, I've had problems with developing competence before, and I had these two different, say, and that can also depend on which role model I choose to follow. And you choose, let's say in this case, you imagine you're choosing the math teacher and you gathering the cats, the multiplication in a way, like related to math there, the proliferation of her example. Okay, let's say I chose one to emulate, and take that with me. And then you get to this place where, if I choose the wrong role model, I come to the place of the broken ride. I come to the place of the Pirates of the Caribbean that doesn't work. And it's funny, but it's also, it's non-functional, and the cats are gone anyway. Like, so you've that kind of representation of, say, if I have, which role model do I emulate? And if I choose the wrong one and I follow their example, it might fail. That's kind of where I was going with all that. I don't know if you were feeling anything as I'm describing it, or that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense to me.
Okay.
For the most.
Yeah, kind of quite exploring the idea of, what is my capacity to learn? And even if I felt like I could, which exemplar, which teacher do I follow to develop that skill and put into practice? So there's like at one point you're like, okay, let's assume I have the confidence to do this. And you're like, okay, even if I do have the confidence to do it and I do have potential, what if I do it poorly? It's almost like a second guessing, a screwing up type of thing. And then it's very interesting. So you chose one, say you had two choices. Okay, well, this math teacher, mother. And when following the math teacher example, by a roll of the dice or whatever, failed, the third dream, then you're with your mother heading to a transitional point. And it seems like following her or walking with her in that way brought you through a tunnel. You came to the other side of a transitional thing. And now you have this insight and you're able to see things better, actually better than she does. Because now you can see through buildings, and you didn't say whether she could or not, but certainly what she was looking for was an archaic mode of communication. It's like, well, she's actually kind of behind the times. I think even maybe you're considering, what has worked for me in the past when I was younger, when I was 17, even when I was 24, walking with her was beneficial, that she was able to be my guide sufficiently and get me through those times in my life. But now I have this additional insight and maybe she doesn't. Maybe she's a little bit stuck in the past. Maybe actually she's not going to be a sufficient role model or a reliable source of wisdom moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible, or
Right. Yeah.
okay. Fair enough. What else are we going for here? These are all my old notes. And then that brings us up to, so once you kind of have that realization, a bit of an epiphany that she's looking for letters. Letters are old school, man. We're kind of in a post-letter age, maybe. Now you're like, okay, well, I'm back at work. So now I've got to really deal with this situation, maybe on my own. Maybe I don't have a role model that can help me decide what to do, decide what I want, decide what I should want, or what path I should pursue. And that brings you to this concept of the butcher being in the break room.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of following all that story arc up to that point. Are you seeing that room or that person or that experience with any new understanding? Or you could think about it for a moment.
I still don't have anything about the butcher.
Okay. But it is a figure you can interact with. You didn't feel scared of him?
No.
Okay. Just a representation of a person doing a job. How do you feel about the idea of industrial butchers in that sense, or even small commercial butchers? The idea of doing that job, is that something, a job you could do? I don't think I could.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds fine to me. I wouldn't be that bothered by it.
That's the big difference. Is, does it bother you? It bothers me a little bit, enough that I'm like, if they brought it to me ready to process, it might not be so bad. But the further away from looking like a complete animal that it is, certainly the better. Starting from it's alive to I got to kill it and then cut it up. I don't know if I could be like just killing animals repeatedly all day, every day. That would just, I don't think I could. I would hate it every day. Anyway, so, but it may not even be about the representation of the job type. I think it's something else. But you're able to communicate with that person. You observe them first. You see that they're doing the typical thing that they do. They've got the, people think butchers, they think maybe deer, because, hunters bring deer in, but pigs or cows, chickens maybe, but mostly pigs or cows is what we think of when we think of a butcher. So it's a iconic or classic media representation that's probably stuck with all of us. And you're able to kind of ask a question, and your question wasn't like, hey, do you like your job? It was how did that guy die? Because he's now, we don't typically associate a butcher shop with carving up humans. that's like above and beyond. That's like something else. That's
Right.
that's maybe, even if you could imagine yourself being a butcher, if being a butcher entailed carving up humans, you would probably say, I would not do that job.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. I could have been wrong. I could have been wrong, and don't hesitate to tell me or if I am. But so there is, it feels like there's something like that going on where you're like, okay, I didn't see that coming. I didn't know that would be part of the job. So you're looking at a job that's actually probably very different from what you do, and then but a job you could do. Like it's, I mean, you cut me off anytime, but what I'm conceptualizing there is the idea that sometimes changing your responsibilities at work, it changes your job. You know, like going from the factory floor to the working in the office. You're still working at the same place. You're not doing the same job anymore. Now you're in accounting. Now you're pushing paper instead of working with your hands. So there, what do you think of that idea that you're looking at being a butcher is a different job than you do currently? You are not a butcher. So you've got this, it's almost like a change of career type of thing represented there.
Yeah, more physical.
You'd say more physical, being a butcher, or your current job?
Yeah, the butcher.
Interesting. More physical than the job you do.
Yeah.
Okay. As in greater expenditure of energy and muscle, like literally physical, more of a physical job.
Yeah.
Okay. So what you do isn't like, you're not a part of a road crew or something, but, you know, that kind of thing. I mean, that's very
No.
physical, shovels and, you know, ditch digging, etc. Gotcha. You know, I'm not trying to have you tell me what you do. So, but just a comparison. Do you, you know, but since you brought that up, more physical, do you think you'd be, or have you considered lately whether you'd be happier with a more physical job? Is that something that's been on your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I quit my old job that was really physical, and I got this.
Which is
And I
less
mean,
physical.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I liked, my old job, despite it being really nice, and I was in the best shape of my life, and I was packed on muscle, just hucking boxes repeatedly 12 hours, and it's like, damn, son, when I look in the mirror, holy hell. And then but
Yeah.
but then it's like, once I get here, it's like I'm sitting around a lot, and I feel like a lazy bum.
Okay. You feel, so you definitely feel like you are less physical at this job, and you feel like maybe it has been having some effects on your physical fitness in general. Put on a couple of pounds and lost some endurance.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Well, that make you in on the hairy man on the table who's about, you said he was around 200 pounds. I think is what I wrote down.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, I see what you mean.
And that's very much larger than you are right now, or at least by a bit.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
That's like double my weight.
Yeah. So how did he die? So you're looking at the butcher. You may be looking at your current job as a bit of a butcher on your body. Maybe we've been thinking about it wrong.
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. It's not, I mean, when you think of physical bodies and muscles and that thing, I mean, a butcher is a very easily connected idea of, like, that's the specialist in retrieving muscles, carving them from bone. And when we think of going to the gym or whatnot, we think of getting shredded, carving the definition of a six pack. We think of it, we think of that in terms of carving, like chiseling a statue, but it can also be, very related to the butcher idea. So you may think in that regard, or you may be considering now that this change of career has led you to a place where you're kind of butchering your own body in a sense of, like, not being as physical as you wish you, or now that you realize you prefer to be, or wish you, or think you should be. And you ask, how did he die? And the butcher starts to tell a story, but you don't really hear words. You get a vignette, you get a scene of storytelling, and you fade out and go into that. And what you're seeing is that man is with the cow that is being taken to be delivered as a sacrifice. And that's the word keeps coming to me. There's lots of different ways to conceive of a sacrifice, you know, but it's broadly speaking, it's what you give up to get something else. So you did make a sacrifice. It sounds like that's what you're conceiving in your mind, is you made a sacrifice of changing jobs. You've got a better job, so to speak, maybe pays more money or a better environment for whatever reason, whatever you prefer over there, but you had to give up something to get it. You had to give up the physicality.
Right, I see. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of themes in here of, I mean, it's all connected to your work. It's all your workplace and your feelings about work in general and your decision-making process about what's a good job. What do I want out of a job? What am I willing to do at a job? You know, I've always been someone myself personally not interested in responsibility. I don't want, you know, I just want to be consulted. Well, I consider myself, you know, fairly smart in some ways. And what I would like is the people in charge to come and ask me my opinion sometimes. I make a better advisor than a leader in that sense. So I don't want to be in a position of authority. I don't enjoy it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to be in charge of anyone. I don't want to tell anyone what to do. None of it. But I like the people in charge to, because I got ideas. I can hopefully provide useful solutions. I think I'm good at that, but, you know, anyway, long story short, that's my perspective on that kind of thing of like taking on additional responsibility. Yeah. You get a bit of a pay raise, but with extra headaches too. And now you got to manage people, and then you got to follow up on, did they do what you asked them to do? I don't want any of that. I don't know. I'm going to stop there and let you kind of respond to what we've been processing here.
No, I'd agree with how you're, what's the word? I don't know, putting it.
Okay. Fair enough. At least it is a perspective. It's something to consider. And you know, it might have been good that we took a break, and I did not, very intentionally, I did not put additional thought into this because I tried as much as possible to keep it out of my mind. So I didn't start building assumptions and hanging on to them in my own mind. I wanted to come back to this almost blank again. And I think I did that fairly well because now I don't know that I could have had this same descriptive offering to like 3 days ago, you know? So yeah, I think we've got a very much more interesting understanding of it. And again, it all comes down to, does this make sense to you personally? Is this, you're like, okay, or is it like,
yeah,
nah, I mean, it's a story. This is one of those things where it's like, I get it, but that's not me. You know, yeah, the way you said that makes sense, but it's not, doesn't feel right. It's not anything in my mind, but it seems like you've confirmed at least most of it, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess the next question would be what to do about it. And you don't have to have an answer right now, but at least these are the things you're considering. Did you happen to have any new dreams over the weekend? You dream almost every day, if I recall correctly, right?
Probably over the weekend, no. I mean, Saturday I worked. Sunday I woke up with a headache, so there's probably nothing.
Fair enough. Okay. Yeah. Would be, as usual, you know, keep me posted in terms of if you get any new epiphanies, if you're like, you know, you let this percolate a bit and then something settled, you wake up tomorrow and something settled into place and you're like, yeah, here's, you know, one thing I'm trying not to do is ask you too many questions that might be revealing identifying information. I guess I could try to be vague in terms of like, are there maybe opportunities for you to step up and take more responsibility at work, or are you just considering whether that's something you want to do, or whether you want to do, or whether you'd be capable of?
I mean, there was my boss said there was an opportunity to be trained as one of the upstairs people, but that never happened.
Is it something you had to express interest in order for it to happen? Or did it kind of get taken away from you? Like, well, it was no longer available.
Yeah, you had to express interest in it, but then nothing ever came from it.
So you did express interest in it, or you didn't?
Yeah, I did.
You did? Okay. And then that didn't pan out. They picked someone else?
No, it just never happened entirely.
Oh, they just never picked anyone. The whole opportunity went away for anyone.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And then this dream happened maybe after that, or definitely after that? Or this series of dreams?
Wait, say again? I got distracted.
I'm wondering about the sequence of events in terms of when this 3-part dream series happened and when that opportunity was offered.
Oh, that opportunity was offered
like 2 months ago.
Okay, so it was quite a ways back. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, even some things that are slightly remote in time can come back to us because we just remember. Oh yeah, I remember that was a thing, and nothing ever happened with that thing. I wonder how I would have felt about that thing. Did I even want that thing? Is it better it went away? Then I didn't have to make a decision. Ah. What if it came back? What would I do? Would I volunteer again? Oh. It's weird the way memory works. Like, yeah, something 2 months go by and suddenly we remember something that happened 2 months ago, and that sparks off a whole new train of thought of like, wonder whatever happened to that, or that person, or that scenario I still don't understand, or I haven't decided how I feel about it, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we picked up part 2 today because we ran out of time, but we don't have to go another 2.5 hours. We can wrap it up unless you feel like you have additional questions about specific things, like images you remember and you're like, well, what about this part? I still don't get that. You do or you don't. It's okay.
And there was the sudden abrupt end about the asking about the penis, and then it's like, what the fuck?
Oh, yeah, I don't even know if I wrote that down. I completely forgot. What was the context on that in terms of oh yeah, and he started carving him up and he asked how big is his penis, and then okay, so that may or may not be all that relevant. I mean, it's certainly relevant. What am I trying to say? It may not be all that staggeringly grand, or there's a common cultural trope of men in competition with each other getting into a dick measuring contest, right?
Right.
And it's more about, they're not even, the analogy is there not because it's literal, like let's whip it out and prove whose is bigger, but it's an analogy to who's got more status. And it's more about that. It's about who's superior or better than the other one. So,
All right.
what you ask is, how was this person better than me in that sense? Was this person of higher or lower status than I was? So you're just asking just straightforward, metaphorically, how big was his status? And you get the metaphorical answer back. It was only 6 inches, which is average. And so you're looking at someone who's not better or worse, the same, kind of the same. And that's interesting, maybe in relation to you considering taking on a higher role that might require some sacrifices. If you raised your status, would your status actually raise in that sense? Or would you pretty much be the same or feel the same? Would you be the same or feel the same? Would it not actually be worth it? Would it just be a lateral move, as they say? You're not really moving up. You're just going sideways to something slightly different.
Because it's like the Greeks thought, large penises were barbaric in the sense.
Sure.
So,
if that's an association you have in your mind, that might bear on the dream. Yeah, for sure. So you could have been asking, was he a barbarian? which isn't the right way to phrase it, but is he, so how do you conceive of like a barbarian in that sense, like a barbaric, how would that person differ from a Roman? What would,
I mean, in that sense, it would be outside of their their sphere. What
a foreigner?
Foreigner, yeah.
Okay, a foreigner. And also not a person not of their ways and customs?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, so that may have been related to the question of, what was the quality or nature of this man? And it got phrased in that way. So it could have been both. And I imagine, the reason Romans called people not Roman barbarians is because, well, they were, of course, less civilized, less erudite and learned, less capable, perhaps. It's kind of a more animalistic in a way, those dirty, barbarians in their animal skins and giant clubs and whatnot.
Right. You view yourself higher than your enemy.
Yeah. So there is a bit of a status thing going on there as well in that regard. But also there's a trade-off with that as well, is like more civilized men tend to be less brutal, less barbarous. And so there's a trade-off for brains over brawn in a way, which is, brains can build you a gun, but brawn can maybe run faster and punch harder and, physically superior versus mentally superior. And this person was kind of neither way. He was just average. There was a balance in him, maybe, or at least the scale didn't tip one side or the other on regarding that. Yeah.
All right.
It's like, that addresses that question. I don't know if that's satisfying in
Yeah.
its own way. Okay. No, I completely forgot about that end of the dream. It was like right on the backside of this piece of paper, and I didn't even, I didn't read it, of course. Yeah. Any other questions? Elements of the dream that kind of stick with you, and you're like, what about that? What about that?
Not really. I think we answered most of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
Well, not as significant as we thought it would be. It's still something.
Yeah. And that's where a lot of these, like, they feel, God, there's a poem, that comes from, speaking of a fairy tale stage play, actually called Into the Woods. The narrator was a character that I think got taken out of the movie adaptation version that came out a few years back with, it's that lady from, she did the movie about singing. I can't remember what it is. I can't remember her name. Doesn't matter. Anyway, the narrator character, he said, usually the narrator in these movies or plays are off stage. They're not a part of the action. Well, there's a little bit of breaking the fourth wall in this one, insofar as bringing the narrator into the story. He'll come out and start narrating, and the characters in the play will look at him and talk to him like, who are you? And one of his things was, when first I appear, I seem mysterious, but once explained, I'm nothing serious. So sometimes dreams are like that, I think, where we, the mystery of them, the confusion is what makes them seem more than they are. And that once you get into it and you start looking at it and making sense of it, it demystifies it. In a sense, it destroys the awe we have looking upon something that we don't understand, and then bringing an understanding to it. It kind of becomes a little more mundane. So it robs it of its magic a bit, but I think in a useful way. Hopefully you trade the experience of the mysterious for the benefit of the understanding. And again, in the trade-off sense. So that's my rant. I can just ramble. We should wrap it up. I'll just keep talking.
The cat was begging for pet.
I know. There she was. Yeah. At least I'm not even. She realized I wasn't actually trying to write, and she went away. She only wants to lay on me when I'm actively trying to take notes. So okay. Well, yeah. If you feel good about it, we'll put a pin in it, and I'll stitch these episodes together, and yeah, we'll call it a good one, I think.
Yeah.
All right, good deal. Well, let's do this then. I'll just say, by way of wrapping up the show here, once again, this has been our friend Lewis from Nowheresville, USA. Complete anonymity, not even his real name. And yeah, and I can do the same for you. I'll talk to anybody. We'll put up a little graphic over here, and no one will ever know who you are. And that's fine with me. I'm here for the mystery and solving it. So you don't have to be anybody special. You can just be anybody.
Yes, greetings from Mars.
Indeed. Marvin the Martian. I love that guy. But then I'll say to all of you out there, would you kindly like, share, subscribe, tell your friends? Always need more volunteer dreamers, viewers for the game streams. 16 currently available works of historical dream literature. The most recent, Dreams and Their Meanings by Horace G. Hutchinson. All this and more at benjaminthedreamwizard.com. And if you would, you have links in the description, of course, if you'd head on over to benjaminthedreamwizard.locals.com, become a member of the community over there. That is where I would prefer to receive any just sustaining donations if you're not going to buy a book. Although I'd recommend buying the books. I think that's the best way to go. And last thing to say is just, Lewis, once again, thanks for being here.
As usual.
Yep. And everybody out there, thanks for watching.
Stay safe.